Hey everyone, this is Yogi Chander, and I'm here with Ian Wilson. Ian is a game dreamer, I believe I have that right. And his thing is dreaming for gamers, and it's an amazingly cool thing, I think. I saw him, or actually, I heard him on Lighting the Void not long ago, and I was really intrigued by his concept and thought that he was a really cool guy, too. We seem to have quite a bit in common as everyone else who's been on the show so far. But anyway, Ian, thank you so much for being here. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on board.
For sure. Thank you so much for getting here. I heard you had a harrowing commute home from work today.
Yeah, how to get things ready for this. But it's all good. Work's really busy right now. I work at a company and I manage software engineering for 35 different retail outlets. And it's very demanding at this time because it's, Boxing Week, Boxing Day, Black Friday, and it's the busiest time. So it's all good. It all works out.
Wow. Yeah, I bet Black Friday is real busy this year.
Yeah, they paced it out this time because of what's happening in the world. So instead of having one day, they stretched it out for 10 days, and it was very relaxed because everyone got the deals and specials, and there wasn't a rush at the door. So
Oh, wow.
It was a lot more laid back than other years.
Super cool. Yeah, that's unusual thing. Weird times for sure. But do you find that that hasn't affected your work much then, this whole situation this year?
No, I can work from home and I can also work at the office. So as far as work goes, there's so much demand for what I do that my employer is like, no time off for you. So it works out all right. Hopefully this whole dystopia 2020 thing emerging will kind of shift gears and we'll get back to normal, but I don't know. It's a very strange time. It's a very historic time, and it's one of those things people just have to understand. History kind of repeats itself, and none of this that's happening right now is new. It's all very much what it is here on Earth.
Yeah. I had a guest last night, and she said her teacher had a saying, "Live the mystery, and don't try to figure it out." And I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense to me. It's like,
you go too deep down the rabbit hole, it'll scare you. You see what's happening. Bigger picture of just what's really taking shape in the world today is no different than what happened during World War II. Same kind of thing emerging on the world stage, and but people don't understand history and they don't get into understanding that the world is a beautiful world and we're very lucky to have it, but there are people that want to do terrible things in this world for power and control and money and their way, right? But it's not their world, it's not their reality, it's ours, and so we all play a role in this game of life. So I'm not too worried about it. I just don't want to see people get hurt. That's about it. All I can ask for.
Wow, that's a cool perspective. I can dig that for sure. I definitely grok that. Yeah, definitely. That's good. We could go into huge rabbit holes there. I've
Yeah, let's get back to the dreaming because that's more fun. That's more light. That's what I've been doing through 2020 is just dream vacations. I don't have to spend all my time focused here in this waking state. I got a whole other second life that I like to attend to as well. So why live one life when you can live two? That's my motto.
I love that idea, man. I love the idea of the dream world as being like a place of adventure and exploration.
It is. It's something we all go to sleep. Everybody has 3 to 5 dreams each night, and it's a gift we've had since our birth. But we live in a time when there's no real mass consumption of dream participation, just like we'd say going to the gym, right? So a lot of people stunt their dream development. There's a big disconnect. I don't know why. That people don't realize it develops neurologically with us. So, our ability to be self-aware or have perception or even memory is actually really neurologically ingrained in our mind. We develop neural pathways and neurons that process that information. That's a lot of information processing to run at runtime, a simulation that can appear as realistic and interactive as your waking life and be stable and give you an experience. So, I've studied a lot of the neurology behind dreaming, and of course, we all start with like Freud and Jung, and I got into lucid dreaming thanks to Dr. Stefan LaBerge back in 1987 with his article on Anomaly magazine, Power Trips Controlling Your Dreams, and he was right. That was probably the one piece of truth I think I found in the world where somebody actually wasn't being kind of misleading. It was awesome. So that's what got me started doing what I do with it.
What was the point of that exactly? That article?
Well, I was big into dreams because I started when I was 8 years old. I was into, I kind of trained myself that watching a movie, say like Star Wars, I was a kid that wanted to kind of be in those movies. Back then we didn't have computer graphics like we have today. The kids are spoiled, right? The CGI was, it was practical effects and claymation. I mean, come on, we had to like Sinbad and Clash of the Titans, and I loved it. I was all into that kind of stuff. So,
Clash of the Titans. Yep.
That's right. I had a big imagination, right? And one night watching Star Wars, I just went to bed, and like we always do. And this time, we do a thing called our memories start to consolidate from our waking life as part of dream replay. It's a big part of what our dreams are, is consolidating waking experience into long-term memory. So it's known as replay. So episodic, semantic, spatial, and sensory replay should be 5 senses, but sensory replay is a big part of it. And that's the mind now taking our waking experience, consolidating it into memory, but it doesn't care what the information is. So immersion into something like a source material like Star Wars, or even people, we know you watch a horror movie, you might have nightmares. I have a friend say, let's watch a horror movie. They're like, no, it's going to give me nightmares. We intrinsically know that waking life experience replays in our dream state. But I kind of caught on that, as a kid, I was watching Star Wars, loved it. I was a huge fan. Who wasn't back then? Right? Yeah, I know, it was a big thing, right? And but closing my eyes, as dreams start to emerge, we can get visual and audible information that starts to become, like we experience in our waking life. So you can get high fidelity graphics, so to speak, and like wearing headphones, kind of quality sound just before the dream pops, right? So that's the hypnagogic shift. That's that kind of fun stuff. But as a kid, I didn't know any of that, except I could observe it, right? It was starting to emerge. I was seeing Star Wars, and all of a sudden I was like, wow, I'm watching Star Wars in my mind, right? 8 years old, fell asleep and had a dream that was exactly like the movie, almost to the T, replaying, because my mind was now consolidating that experience, and I was caught up in that. And so I woke up thrilled. I was like, wow, hey, this dream stuff, it's not all scary. There's some cool stuff going on there. And I started noticing watching stuff.
Real quick, did you have a lot of nightmares before this time?
Well, we all get nightmares, and it's just part of
previously
yeah, of course. I mean, I grew up, my parents were religious, so of course we go into the whole concept of hell and evil and all that kind of stuff. And as a child, that rumorates as a fear. So that shaped some of my dream content for sure. And I cleaned that stuff up. But needless to say, I started catching on to just, back then watching movies and cartoons and stuff. And I started learning that I could review it and then dream it for some reason. I didn't understand how, but it worked. So I worked with it. Then the Burgess stuff came around, and I was already having awesome dreams. I was living in basically anything I wanted. I was already doing that, but I wasn't self-aware. So, that would be 15.
Wow.
So, at 15, I came across that article in the library, and, I was big into, and back then I was very nerdy. So a lot of stuff, role-playing games and all sorts of fun things as a kid. And science, I was good with physics, and, I was programming computers also back then. I was doing art as well. I had a lot of interest, and dreaming was my number one form of entertainment at that point. It was like, before we have VR, we kind of had nature's perfected VR system. So I had my first self-aware dream after covering that article at 15. And that's where you become like you are right here. When you're self-aware, you exist, right? And it's where you're clocking existence now. And in the dream state, it was just amazing, because sure, I've been there before, but I wasn't there like we are here, where you had that sense of self-awareness and yourself, now present, where you can make choice, you can act on intent. And I didn't know what to do in my first lucid dreams, so I flew, like what else, I'm a kid, so off I go to the races. But when I woke up, I was like, I'm never going to stop dreaming that way again. That is how you dream. Like, that was the missing ingredient, was awareness. So I trained with that, and but unfortunately, we didn't have the internet, and our libraries, there wasn't a lot of knowledge, amazingly, or information around that I had access to that was teaching it. So I kind of went the method that I always went, which was just slugging it through. Like I noticed I couldn't taste or smell in my dreams, and I couldn't read even when I was self-aware. So I had all these deficiencies. I called it noise at the time, and started just training during the day.
Had you actually tried that and it didn't work out?
Yeah, so I'd say eat some food, and I tried to smell it or eat it, and I'd be like, oh, this doesn't have any feedback, and I didn't know why at the time. I know now, but back then I didn't understand.
Oh, I'd love to know the answer when we get there.
Okay, yeah, cool. Well, it was pretty easy. At 16, I was sitting down drinking hot chocolate, right? So I was smelling it and tasting it, and I was wondering, why can't I have this same sensory-rich experience? I could see, I could smell, or I could see, I could touch, I could hear, just super real, but I couldn't taste or smell, and I didn't understand it. So, I was just telling myself I want to be able to taste the hot chocolate and smell the hot chocolate in my dreams. That would make it more fun. I was disappointed that wasn't happening. And then
Totally.
that night when I was lying in bed, like I do, I start reviewing waking life experiences, and I was thinking about that, and ended up having a dream. And sure enough, here I am replaying the hot chocolate, and I could taste and smell it. But I knew what I did when I woke up. I was like, oh, pay attention to that. So I started doing something I just called cognitive mapping. I wrote about that in 1998 when the internet started to come online. I published my first, I did one in 1996 on lucid dreaming, and then I did one on my course on consciousness, which was a more bigger breakdown of that experience. And I've expanded that since then over the last 22 years to what we have now at my other website, which is just trying to turn dreams into an art form and an entertainment system, teaching people how to do active dreaming or active dream programming. So instead of being at the mercy of the wildness of one's subconscious mind, which is where all the bad stuff happens, you actually are in the driver's seat. You're the producer, you're the director, you're the screenwriter, and you're also the star. Like, why not? You're your dreams. You have them every time you fall asleep. May as well turn them into something intrinsically rewarding. And I do it with source material, so I'm a pop culture dreamer, so I can dream in movies and video games and even RPGs. I've been doing it for 40 years now, so it's.
Oh, you mean like pen and paper RPGs?
You bet, man. I was doing GURPS, Shadowrun, even Cyberpunk, and
me too.
So when my friends were all nerding out on pen and paper stuff, I was like, I'd go to bed and I could literally start to think and imagine and envision the gaming system, and my subconscious mind would just respond to that. And next thing I know, I'm off hanging out with dragons and role playing and doing the things that I like. And so that's why I like the role playing games. It wasn't so much for that; it was just good material that could then come in dream replay for me, and I kind of turned my subconscious mind into the dungeon master. So I did really kind of master
very cool
this computer for my own entertainment, and a lot of people just seem to miss that. And even to this day, it's a 747 discussion with everybody. It's really tough.
Man, Ian, you're sending me down rabbit holes already with the things you said. There's my own personal experience. I have questions, and what you're saying, I have questions about the concept of cognitive mapping, and that last thing you just said about treating the brain sort of like a computer. I've had just the tiniest little bit of experience with coding, and I understood immediately. It's like that's how a brain, you can work with a brain like that, right?
Yep,
and you totally can. And I haven't been successful in maintaining a dream world like that, but I could start and I can visualize very clearly, but I have never been able to enter a consistent dream world or an intentional one.
Yeah, and again, that's not something that you can blame yourself for, because as a developmental skill, if you take language, for example, in children, so we are developing with our dreaming. It does play a role in our cognitive development, obviously with long-term memory, and of course, higher brain function, creativity. We see a lot of things that, if you get into the research of what they're discovering with dreams, is that they do play a role. That's why humans dream, some birds dream, and every mammal's dream. There's a cognitive role that's there, as it sorts out information in what-if scenarios and replay, right? It also helps us with anxiety and stress and depression. All sorts of things can be worked out in a safe environment that dreams can offer. It can also be very nightmarish if people don't know how to manage fear. But the big picture thing with it is, because it's developmental and we're not going to school and having, a course like we do for chemistry or acting or art or music lessons, we're not developing, right? So people that wake up and don't remember their dreams, for example, is a great example of what's the price you pay for not participating in your 3 to 5 dreams each night. No stimulation. Without stimulation, the neural pathways and neurons that are needed to process that data aren't being stimulated. So the body and mind just go, whatever, they're not using it. So it goes into atrophy, right? So we have stunted dream development, just like a child that's not being raised with language while the brain is developing its growing neural pathways or learning pathways for language. And it creates a foundation, a network of information for handling language. And if a child doesn't get that exposure when they reach mid-25, when your brain hardens, that means no more room for neural pathway development. Now it's all repurposing. You reintroduce that now adult into learning language, you'll never speak it fluently again. So stunted language development, I also think, and this is my hypothesis, because it's evident in things like fMRI, that we'd have stunted dream development from neglect or not having a educational system that teaches us how to actually work with that. As in my case, an art form or an entertainment system is my direction, but of course it's deeper than that. But that's the route that I started with, and it worked very well and kept me stimulating. So obviously my mind was then developing for it rather than developing without it, and it makes it very easy. But again, in our culture, you try to talk to somebody about that, and it's like they all have their different perspectives, right? Like some people think dreaming is evil. And I always say, well, hey, birds dream, or they think it's the influence of some, the devil. And I'm like, well, so then you're saying that every time a dog falls asleep and has a dream, the devil's influencing their dreams and the birds. And come on, every person on the planet, come on. It's not the way it works. Do you ever think that it plays a role in their cognitive development and storing memory? And these are the things that we know about it scientifically. So, it's a shame
thing never once occurred to me until you just said that, actually.
Yeah. So I encounter a lot of resistance from a lot of people with different, even people that are skeptical and atheistic, because they don't do it, and they think, oh, well, now you're into the fairy tales and Puff the Magic Dragon stuff, and then drug use too, right? Which I don't use drugs. And so there's a lot of cultural things around dreaming that creates a lot of negativity bias towards just something as simple as saying, hey, we're all having 3 to 5 dreams each night. I know what I'm dreaming. What about you? I know what I'm doing with my dreams. It's just acting in just a different perspective. Just participate. That's it. What are you going to lose?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you what you can lose. By the time a person's 80, if they have now amnesic sleep because of stunted dream development, by the time they're 80, it's 25 years of your life that you dedicate to sleep in amnesic sleep. So, time's precious. Some people don't believe we survive death. So, geez, if time in existence is valuable, that's a great way to cultivate time with a new perspective, and also can be as visceral and real as our waking life. Even though it's just a dream, it's still damn amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
So cultivate back. I probably had over 10 years of conscious runtime cumulatively in those 33 years of being a self-aware dreamer, almost every night for 33 years.
Wow. And so your course has basically been developing for 33 years or so.
22 years. I mean, it's not my focus because, of course, being dreams, I've always done it for free, right? So I published stuff extensively on the internet for a lot of years. But it wasn't until I launched this that I took everything that I was building up to, because I give it maybe like an hour a day, because my career takes a lot of time, and but I always have a dedication to trying to improve and understand how do we dream better. And I've taught a lot of people, so I've done a lot of dream coaching, and I encounter people in various different age groups, and you can really see the way they adapt to it. And people that are younger, before the age of 25, snap back really quick. People that get into the 60s plus range, I've worked with people and they can't have any kind of dream. They haven't dreamt in 10 years, so there's a lot of stunted development. But we do stimulation training, so that's what we do different. And it's not stimulation with drugs. It's not stimulation with a device. It's actually working with your dreaming mind and how to get it to start to activate those neural pathways again, get it coming back online. And the students are finding that, it works. And the reason why it works, that's how we learn. That's how you learned your language when you were a kid. You were being stimulated by somebody talking to you.
It's
how you
fun.
do it. It is. And you do it for any skill. You want to be an artist, you have to sit down and start to learn how to draw. But the other sell that's on the internet is a lot of people are being very misleading and saying, oh, yeah, you can do it in 3 easy steps, or, do it in 5 seconds. And they set up these false expectations and don't describe anything to do with development in the brain, with dreaming. So the people that are listening to those people have no understanding of, it's just like going to the gym. If you don't work out, what's going to happen?
Right.
Atrophy. And that's nature. So our brain atrophies. We see that with cognitive decline as we get older. Understanding that you're always up against atrophy with any skill. I mean, you can be a great musician, and all of a sudden your life takes a direction and you no longer play music, you start to rust, So it's like any skill, you got to have a little bit of maintenance for it. But what we do is we do stimulation training with the things like cognitive mapping. So I've had students, like, for example, one lady, she's wonderful and she was big into dreaming. So for 30 years, because of the information she had, she was just having audible visual dreams, and some self-awareness would kick in here and there, but she didn't have tactile feedback. She didn't have taste or smell. And she got into sensory training that we do for stimulation, which is just like I did with the hot chocolate. We start working with getting that information during the day, paying attention to it, and then working with that in our dreams to have that stimulate those sensory regions. So for the first time in 30 years, can you imagine now all of a sudden she can now touch in her dreams? Now, I think that's pretty amazing. And another week before she had taste, and another week before she had smell. So that's 3 weeks of training, though. That's the developmental reality of using it as an actual skill. But she loves it. Now she's got a richer dream life, and she's not the only person that's gone through that and seen the same improvement in working with our waking life, and then working with how the mind works with that information to produce dream content is my workflow for everybody. It's very efficient. People that have, hadn't had consistency in lucid dreaming because they were chasing all the inventive gimmicks, and it's unfortunate. That's a big trope out there in different groups is, we expect or wish that we're going to have these things and not be active in the actual act of it. So we do stimulation training just like we do with memory and awareness. And so now they're having more lucid dreams, more consistent lucid dreams. They're starting to stabilize more, have longer time in those lucid dreams. It's still sporadic because it takes time. This is the harder part, the prefrontal cortex. Getting that little bad boy online during dreaming is a challenge because, again, it's developmental and we haven't been training it. We haven't been in a system that really gets you in that workflow where you're actually stimulating it. So the average person is in, I call it the land of the dreaming dead, and it's not their fault. It's just big neglect.
Is your process then, is it individual and structured, to address where they're kind of deficient or whatever?
Yeah, and I can usually tell. I mean, I've been around for a long time, so I can tell when people are doing the drugs to get their dreams. You can see it in the dream content.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, for instance, do you always start people with a certain step or a certain
aspect? Yeah. If I was going to teach you how to draw, I wouldn't go out and pull the most complex painting and say, okay, well, let's just start painting. You're going to do it exactly like this. Or if you're going to learn the piano, I'm not going to sit down and give you the most complex piece of sheet music. There's a foundation in any skill that's going to build up to doing that eventually. Yeah. But the same thing, because of the atrophic nature, that especially understanding how many people unfortunately have stunted dream development. I start with memory, and even people that are active dreamers are, fairly good. They still, I dream like maybe have 3 dreams a week, and now they're having 3 to 6 dreams a night, as many as 7 a night. So they're seeing an improvement in consistency. And the other thing too is, so we now address memory and get that working in the first week. The next thing is, and we do work with awareness is actually a part of the whole process workflow, but it's not the focus yet. And then we get into sensory training, because that's the next part of dream replay. Like, who wants to go to sleep and just have, visual or audible? And all the time that could be noisy and dim. So we do sensory training because even if you're not being self-aware, your non-aware dreams become really vibrant and really nice too. So then finally we get tackling awareness. How do we train and stimulate for awareness rather than doing, the training wheel side of things, like the reality check, or all these gimmicks like plug your nose and try to breathe through, and all these little things that now become kind of a focal point. But awareness naturally starts to emerge when you start doing it right. You will start having false awakening loops and all sorts of things and start to emerge as a result of that. But it shouldn't be such a heavy process. And then we get into the psychological side of dreaming, because so we have 3 areas that are neurological: memory, perception, and awareness. And the next area is psychological. That's all of our fear, and that's a big inhibitor, a big dream killer for a lot of people. And how do you resolve fear? How do you overcome fear? How do you resolve those nightmares? And, to get more into the idea that, dreams do impact our body. If you study dream science, and it's self-evident, it connects to our limbic system. So if you're having a nightmare, when you go to sleep, unfortunately for people that now think it's real and are engaging that as if real, the mind and body have a connection in our dreams. The body will release adrenaline and cortisol just when, the way you're going to do it in your waking life is preparing you to fight or flight. It's very unnecessary. And what that does to our body is...
We do the jump start and wake up.
Yeah. Well, it gets worse than that for some people, because what will happen is you get an increase in heart rate, and of course your blood vessels constrict and you start to breathe heavier. And the other thing that can happen is it escalates. Fear is something that can escalate without management for a lot of people, and that can lead to a night terror, right? Now, night terror, what happens there is we have the primus, which is a nerve cluster in the cerebellum that gets overloaded, sort of like those fainting goats. So, if you go and scare a goat and it falls down, everyone laughs. Well, that's not a very nice thing to do, for one, because you're shocking its nervous system. And the other thing that we know with cortisol and fear is that it embeds, and it can enlarge the amygdala, which is the part that starts the whole fear process. It starts to shrink the hippocampus, which is part of your long-term memory, and it also stunts development in the prefrontal cortex, leads to anxiety, depression, phobias, right? So a fear that ruminates and develops in a person, especially in kids, they're actually developing neural pathways for that fear, just like language. So it becomes clinical when it becomes a phobia, and that gets hard to treat, right? Because once it starts to embed, and that's why you're having nightmares, is because your subconscious mind is saying, look, we got to get rid of this. You got to stop doing this. You got to stop fearing this. Let's go. Let it go. Let it go. It's a way of the mind trying to protect itself from what happens after a phobia. For some people, not everybody's, it can escalate to a psychosis, and we can see mental health issues develop as a result of that. So, overcoming fear is not that hard to do. But a person has to learn how to manage it and learn how to rationalize. The only way to get out of it, especially irrational fear, is through rationalization. And we get into positive dream programming, getting into all these negative psychological things that are impacting our dreams, into learning how to reprogram that, release from that, let it go, keep the past the past. so it doesn't ruminate. And rumination is a terrible thing too, because
it is.
it doesn't let you move forward. And you know, a lot of people live with a lot of heavy baggage, unfortunately, and it's just the way we are. It's our psychological makeup. So we get into that in that particular course. And once you get all the house cleaning done, then the fun stuff starts. But you know, that's the overcoming limitations and, you know, extending time and even modifying the dream avatar. We start to let go and just have fun. You know, you should go to sleep and not punish yourself. Go to sleep and have some good times. My sleep time is vacation time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Of course, themed in certain genres. Like my dream this morning was amazing. It was I play Fallout 76, and there's an amusement park in there, and incorporated into my dream. Except that the difference is now it was still, you know, post-apocalyptic amusement park, but now the dream incorporated the rides and things like that and made them active, which isn't like in the game. So I was able to go on some of the rides and hang out with you know, normal people. It wasn't like scorched and ghouls from the game, but it's fun, you know. And for me, I like amusement parks, and it was awesome. One ride, yeah. So you know, for me, that's just like, yeah, well, I can't go to Disneyland right now, and it's expensive, you know.
Right.
But, I went to a nice amusement park, almost as real in my waking life as, but it was just a dream, and it was nice. You know, I spent some
so much better,
time there. And I have those memories and those experiences, so it's additive. Right now, you're getting that kind of two places to derive experience from, and that just adds to your overall experience as self-awareness, as consciousness, is what you are. You know, so you're adding.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt your description there. Do you feel complete?
I'm done.
Cool. So I was just wondering then, in the game world that you construct, do you find it easy to keep it consistent, or do other game worlds kind of bleed in?
Oh yeah, you can get incorporation is what we call it when you're not getting 100% replays. So it'll happen, especially with new students. So we've had 33 people now that have had an incorporation or 100% replay of their source material. And not everyone's using games. Some people are using movies. Other people are using just Netflix. And some people are using nature. You know, I always say at Dreaming for Gamers, it's not about what I dream. You're the artist. So I'm going to teach you how to paint the canvas of your mind. I'm giving you tools to go in there as an artist and construct your dream experience, not my dream experience, right? We're all subjective in that process. So I don't like to put any, I'm just a person that's so good at it and feels so spoiled. I mean, geez, I'm going to take all this knowledge to my grave. I may as well try to make a last effort to kind of put it out there for other people to have a different perspective. And that's about it with this practice. And very stable, functional, drug-free way. I'm into functional dreaming, and that's the stability. So when you get into, well, here's an example of incorporation. I play Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. I'm in Hoth. Hoth is from Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
Yeah. So of course, when playing the game and I'm mapping it out, I didn't notice the big mountains as much. And my subconscious mind was obviously clocking that, thinking, "Hey, this would make a nice ski hill, right?" So I go to sleep and I'm thinking about Hoth, and I kind of go into an incorporation way, and it's now I'm at the base that's in the game, and there's now resorts, and there's like lighting and people, and they're all kind of like, there was even a guy on a tauntaun and all kind of stuff, but there were ski hills. It was a ski resort, so I got to go skiing on Hoth, and it hits me with a lot of those kind of fun things. So like a nerd like me who likes Star Wars, even at 48, it was awesome. So here I am skiing on Hoth, and I knew I was dreaming, so I know what's going on there, but I'm just thinking, it's just like being awake here, right? It's like for the time that I'm there, and it's very stable, but then they change. So your subconscious mind, there's always a tug of war because it wants to consolidate memory. You have other things that it's going to want to work on, and it's very clever in how it kind of moves you out of the way and goes, okay, well, now we're going to process this information. But that's what it's doing. It's working on other, your mind's actually very busy doing a lot of stuff with our dreams that we don't realize until you start to practice it. And the students notice that as well. We talk about when I talk about garbage in, garbage out with the dreaming mind, they start seeing how things other than their source material starts to incorporate and become part of that replay, like things you're watching on TV, conversations you're having with friends, those kind of things start to now
environmental while you're sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. And they start picking it out, going, oh, I know why I dreamt that now, because it came from that influence. And you start seeing how impactful our waking world is. And then that's where you find people like myself, and I know many other lucid dreamers that do filtering, right? So you don't want to, you want to kind of filter your influences here, so you're not replaying that crap in your dreams, right?
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to do because, for me, it's like literally I had to cut off all the news, cut off TV, start focusing on things that are, I still do a lot of beautiful stuff with nature. Oh my God, go out to a lake and look at ducks in the pond. So aside from the gaming, I have a lot of like vacations by beaches and things like that. So it's not exclusive to the artistic side of it, but I'm an artist, so I will do artistic dreaming. But I do a lot of dreams that are just nice adventures, peaceful, just tranquil, that you can't get here, not noisy, no people coming up to me and bothering me. And it's just spending
Yeah.
quality time in a focused state that's really enjoyable.
I do that every day. I live close to nature, and
I love it.
it's
Yeah,
important.
I have a huge appreciation for nature. Absolutely. I think it's one of the most amazing things that's here. That's what makes me slug through it with all the other things that are kind of destroying nature. But we won't get into that. We won't get into the dark side of here.
I know.
Try to stay on the light side.
Let's hope it's preserved somehow.
Yeah, we'll get through it. I mean, this world's an old world. It's been around for a very long time, and we're in the sixth mass extinction now. Life will make it through. Doesn't mean humans will, but life will most certainly continue on this planet unless, of course, we get stupid enough to blow it all up. But
in the world, have you ever had a cataclysmic or apocalyptic thing happen?
Oh yeah, of course.
Did you create it yourself? Did you just create apocalypse? This world's done.
Well, I have examples, like, of course, right now there's a lot of tension. If you're paying attention to the shift in the geopolitical sphere, there's a lot of changes that are happening now. And there's, China's threatening the States, and they're, of course, mobilizing for war and all this kind of stuff. So I did have a dream and of course, there's also fallout, right? So I'm aware of all this information. So it was actually just a very recent dream. And I don't have a lot of nuclear war dreams, but when you play Fallout, you're going to have nuclear war dreams. And but the thing is, it incorporated with my real world. So I have another domain of my dreams that is like my waking life dreams, and I usually don't mess with those. I like to stay kind of uninfluenced by these, because you can really compartmentalize different aspects of your dreaming self, right? So you can have that fun dream, you can have that, now you're with friends and family and having a nice time there, a nice communal kind of like another example is like with the social distancing and masks. I had a dream where I owned an arcade and people were coming in and social distancing and wearing masks, but I knew I was dreaming. I told all the dream characters, no, take those masks off. You're not allowed to social distance and mingle with each other. You can't catch COVID. It's a damn dream. So I was
good for you.
Slapping my dream character around so I could have some normal in my life, It's bad enough seeing everybody wearing masks. I think it's horrible. I think it's a real dehumanizing and tragic thing that's happening right now, but I'm not in control of it. I'm not the one wishing for that on the world, but I know the people who are. And
I could do a whole show based on that, that whole topic, everything, especially even just the masks. I could do a series based on that.
Yeah, and so my point is I try to filter that stuff out of my dream experience because I don't want that taint in my mind.
Nice.
But the apocalyptic one was interesting. I mean, here I am in a dream, and I don't realize I'm dreaming, so I'll have unconscious dreams where you're caught now in dream drama, which you'll understand when you break out of that drama or break out of that trance that you're in. And I see what I think are Starlink satellites. So I'm looking at the beautiful, and everything's super real. You think you're awake. It's just that's how dreams can be. And so I'm thinking of those Starlink satellites, but they were bombers, and they're dropping nukes. And so all of a sudden it goes from dark and a big, brilliant white behind me, and I look back towards what would be Vancouver and the hills there. And of course now there's a nuclear bomb going off. And because I don't realize yet, I did figure it out that I was dreaming. I get now, oh my God, I got to go find my daughter, and you want to protect your family, and so you're caught now in dream drama is what I call it. So off I go, and more bombs are now starting to drop, and they're using tactical nukes on my beautiful environment. I live in this beautiful area with this road that stretches this beautiful lake that I spend so much time, introspectively looking at and admiring. And now I'm watching like the mountains being destroyed and these tactical nukes going off. And then finally I start to realize I'm dreaming, and I'm like, oh, well, then that doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. And so I even was joking around with firemen that were in the dream because they're all playing into the drama, and I was just cracking jokes with them and stuff like that, and not worried about it. So when I get myself in that state, I'm dreaming, the fear aspect of it is gone instantly. It's there's nothing it can do to me there that I haven't seen already or been through in the last 40 years. So, when I was younger, in the wildness of my subconscious mind, my goodness, I had material that would make H.P. Lovecraft, either applaud or roll over in his grave, or even Edgar Allan Poe. But that's the same for all of us, and that comes from, again, influences here. All that stuff is linked to things from movies and belief systems and things like that. And but I cleaned all that up. I seldomly.
Those are also influenced by dreams, though, right?
yeah, exactly, right. So I do house cleaning for sure. I want to make sure that my dreams have a certain Norman Rockwell appeal to them, because I'm an artist. I have this philosophy called the Norman Rockwell versus Norman Bates philosophy. And if you know who Norman Bates is, he was Psycho. Right. So, there's that thing, and we can get into dream psychology with the Jungian shadow self, what makes a person here in this world a monster versus a person who's a saint, and those are choices and those are paths that people go down. So I also practice valence, which is the understanding of good and evil and consequence and benefit, that every choice we have, whether we realize it or not, can either be beneficial or consequential to us and people around us. So I try to have a certain amount of that ethics and I find dreams have helped with that because they give you role play where you can now be in another person's perspective too, if you get outside of your skin, so to speak. And
Yes.
that teaches empathy, right? So empathy is really important, especially in our system.
Yeah, and that's difficult to teach. So that's a cool way to do it. I
Yeah.
would also say that your training seems to, I bet it helps people with mindfulness in reality.
Yeah, they find out quick. Yeah, it does. Yeah, you become very aware of yourself, very aware of your thoughts and how your thoughts impact you, because we aren't just a body, right? Our body is just an interface for what? Our mind, our self. We're the occupant of this body, expressing through it, sure. But what we are on the inside is something that threads deeper than just, the body. And dreams are an example of where it also threads too. And so we're a little bit more than just, a meat suit. Well, it is a meat suit, but what we are inside the occupant or the being is much, in my opinion, much more than that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, definitely. So I've done lucid dreaming. I've touched on that, and I'm still experimenting with that. I'm definitely not advanced, but I've been doing it since either intentionally or not, since I was very small. But so it sounds like your training also. It sounds like a lucid dreaming, but on another level. So is lucid dreaming kind of a prerequisite skill that people need to learn in your training?
I also make it clear in the path that they don't have to become a lucid dreamer to do dream programming. It's not a requirement. But the thing is, when you start finding yourself safe in the dream state, when you get rid of the fears, suddenly having a dream when you know you're dreaming and it's in a stable, safe environment and you're having fun, and you wake up and go, wow, that didn't hurt me. The problem with most people is, here we have to survive. Here you walk up in front of a bus. Here's where all the consequences are. Now, just keep this in mind. Birds dream. Every mammal dreams. 7.7 billion people are dreaming. How many people do you think really get hurt or die from dreaming? Now, I can tell you how many people get messed up and wake in life from all sorts of things, but the dreams aren't going to be a big part of that. It's a pretty safe environment. Even when we look at some psychologists that are looking at dreaming, even in our neurochemistry, it changes. So, it can turn off certain things that while we're awake, certain hormones that can be more impactful while we're awake. So it can provide a safe space for us to do a lot of things that we didn't realize. It's a tool, right? And my attitude with it is, how are you going to use that tool? Some people leave it in the shed and let it rust. It's just a choice. So I don't push it on anybody. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a guru. I'm not a mystic. I'm not trying to look for a cult or a following. I can't stand that stuff. I like friendship. Friendship's really good.
Nice.
But I come from a different perspective. I mean, I could have tapped into social media and done clickbait and done all this kind of stuff to try to get an edge on that. But I just like authentic people and honesty. And I think with dreaming, sometimes you just have to be honest about it. And I don't like the hooks that I've seen with some other people. There's a lot of good people out there. Like, I know people like, Robert Wagner and Dr. Art Funkhauser and people from the International Association for the Study of Dreams. It's a good collection of people that do clinical dreaming as well, so they're into what we can use with our dreams to help better your mental health and also better your life. And I like that side of it, because it's definitely there. It's helped me with anxiety. It's helped with a lot of my own challenges and overcome patterns. Now that's all it is, just patterns of yourself that need a little bit more improvement. Let's call it that way. So improving the quality of yourself is a good way of looking at it. Yeah,
I can see that as a tool towards doing that for sure. And actually, that is something. I have had success in recreating a golf world in my dream world, both a real one and also a video game one. So when I was first learning how to golf, I was teaching myself the rules of it by playing a video game, Link's Golf. And so I was really into it. And I was very familiar with my local golf course. And so on the way to sleep, I would just start playing my golf course, and I'd be real visual about it and feel it and all that. I'm very good at visualization. So I really went there until I went to sleep. And sometimes that would hang on in the sleep, and I'd be golfing and stuff. But in the computer land sometimes too, it would be sort of a computer's dream, but I didn't have any control over it or anything, it seems.
Yeah, the control comes, like any skill, it comes with training, because for the most part, this is the domain of your subconscious. It's been running the show for a very long time, and we haven't gotten into the driver's seat. So it took me a while to be able to actively program my dreams, so to speak. And when you get into that process, you understand it's a form of thinking. So even as you're falling asleep, and the thoughts that emerge, the sounds that emerge that seem part of the subconscious's role, you can influence. You can now think in audible and visual forms, kind of like Plato's idealism. Plato may not have been right about waking world matter. I mean, because there was that contention between him and Democritus if you study philosophy, but he was absolutely right when it was applied to dreaming, because dreams are your realm of idealism. It's a place where you can bring your imagination to life and so much more. And as a tool, like, I mean, the things that I've done, extensive, I've been at it for a long time and enjoyable, but then I'm not the only person, so those that I know that are big into it usually just do it for similar reasons to myself, and it's because it's a part of you. It's an extension of yourself, right?
Yeah, that's a big part of our life. How much time do we spend sleeping and dreaming?
Exactly, right? But that's, again, perspective. And but unfortunately, as I say, I mean, humans are unique. Animals don't sit there and worry about what we're dreaming about, but I will bump into people and they get very concerned that, oh no, you're participating in your dreams. And then they have all these fears, and then that's all they can express is their fears. And it's like, well, where are you getting that information from? Like, what?
People feel the same about meditation sometimes.
Yeah, and it's strange. And it's like, well, then I explain to them that, I study a lot of the, I studied psychology, and I've studied neuroscience and physics and chemistry. I mean, I'm very academic in my approach, although unfortunately I got kicked out practically of everything that I ever gotten into because of this. They didn't like it at church, so away I go.
I bet.
Professor in psychology, because that was back in 1990. No one knew about it, and it just sounded like the realm of madness to them. Like, what? You can go to sleep and do something? That's how shut down they are, And so my father kicked me out of my house, when I was a kid for it. In my teenage years, because he's a religious Jehovah's Witness, right? So I mean, why not? Why not freak out about something you don't understand rather than take 5 seconds to maybe learn about it? And but I don't worry about that, because I find the only people that really understand it are the people that do it, and the people that don't understand it are the people that have no experience, and I don't judge them for it. If you don't have that experience or that perspective, you can get it. I can teach you how, but I'm not going to teach you, with this skill-based system on Dreaming for Gamers, let's just call it the mouth of the rabbit hole for people. That gets them kind of
the mouth of the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's not the end. It is not the end of the rabbit hole, but most people aren't ready for the end, so I don't really go there. I'll let them learn the way I learned, through self-edification. And there's a great thing in the pursuit of knowledge. If you study epistemology, there's priori, which is what's written in books, and most people grab onto that. And then there's posteriori, which is experience. You learn from experience. Fire burns you, right? So eventually, if you're smart, you're going to learn not to play with fire, right? So learn from those lessons. I like people that are the student of the self and student of reality. You're a student of yourself, and you're a student of this world. You're learning every time and every day and every opportunity. There's something there for us to either grow, but in the same token, there's also something there that can also cascade into greater problems. And you see that with people that end up having drug addictions and homelessness and all these challenges that unfortunately come from just our culture and our way of life, which is a little bit unique, artificial, not natural like it used to be. But people won't remember that or know that, because everyone lives in the present moment, and just come into a system, don't question, just go with the flow, and that's how it is. But
it's if you remember, you can't unremember, though.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, my dream practice goes even deeper than, of course, the video game stuff, but because that's still a major part of my training, because I suffer atrophy as well, right? So I see degradation in my return on my investment for dreaming if I'm not training it, just as if I stop going to the gym. So I'm very passionate about it because, well, for obvious reasons, they had me in lockdown for 2 months. I couldn't go to a restaurant. I couldn't go hang out with my friends, but I could go to sleep and do exactly that, as real as my waking life, and not be at all feeling like I didn't gain that freedom to at least do that. So go on vacations. And so actually, because I had a little bit more time to sleep, I didn't have to go to work. I was working from home, no more commute. It was great, and I could sleep in. And more sleep equals
go in.
Yeah, more sleep, more time to dream. Thank you, lockdown.
Yeah,
but, I'm very professional. Oh yeah, I'm very, very serious about the company I work for. I mean, I take care of them, and I'm responsible for 35 stores and all those families that are working to be fed and take care of their families. So I always want to contribute in society. So, I could have gone on welfare and just pursued my art. I gave my art up because it wasn't paying the bills. So I turned to another career that paid the bills. And people wonder, well, you're such a good artist. Why didn't you do this? Well, circumstances, my friend, and responsibilities. Like if you take on those responsibilities, it becomes quite the challenge. If you throw away those responsibilities, well, then that's okay too. But that's
sometimes
just my personality.
Never get to their passion, though. They let that overtake it. I'm so glad that you didn't let that happen to you, that you stuck with this. It's real good stuff.
Pretty spoiled when I close my eyes. So, it's like I can grind out life. Right? I consider life grindier than World of Warcraft. I don't know if you ever played World of Warcraft, but it's grindy. So, it's like,
and that's right.
Then I use my dreams to basically release from that grind and go, okay, geez, I'd love to go to Disneyland. I'm not going to be able to. If I want, I can sit there and map out Disneyland. And I love amusement parks even to this day. Some of my funnest dreams are at amusement parks. And just vacation.
You're a roller coaster tycoon dream?
Yeah, exactly, right. I've had one dream with an amusement park that was the size of an entire city. It was, my daughter was there as a dream character, and it was amazing. Like, it's so amazing to see. Like, one of the things that I liked about it is they had these. So we're in this one warehouse area, and there's these large eggs, right? And they hatch, and out come these mechanical chicks, right? And every ride was beautifully artistic. It was so Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, right? Like, we'd go for food and we were having Chinese food, but even in the restaurant, they had a ride out on the patio, and everything about that whole city now was just themed in this amazing, like better than Disneyland amusement park. And so I do BTL dreaming for those reasons. And I wake up going, after a long time there, and even some of the animals, like we went to a petting zoo, and one of the animals was green, kind of like a Dr. Seuss color look to it, with darker green stripes on it, and super friendly, but nothing like we have here. But it was like seeing a totally new animal that doesn't exist, right? And so I look at stuff like that as an artist and a dream artist and go, yeah, that's awesome. I got to have an experience. That's the same thing with a dragon. Like, I like dragons, so I can't ride a dragon here. Maybe they might make an animatronic dragon, but the ability for our subconscious mind to produce everything and anything that I've seen. So I've ridden on the backs of dragons. I've had an entire, like adventures with them. The only time I can hang out with the dragon.
NPCs too? Like intentionally place an NPC?
Oh yeah. And I can also shift my awareness into dream characters. That's another thing I can do. So.
Oh, sweet! Really?
So I don't have to necessarily, I'm sure I won't look like this. If I see myself in the mirror in the dream, I'm still my younger self. Actually, I hardly ever see myself now putting on weight at 48, thanks to COVID and no gym time, getting fat here.
I miss the gym. I go every day.
I got to get back to that, man. It's just tough to figure out what I can do because, I'm in a city and it's like, you're not allowed to really, everyone's just wearing masks. And I'm just like, I'd rather just sit inside my apartment.
I know it's like you're going into a sniper field every time I go to the store. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. And I don't like all the Karens out there and the trigger happy people that now want to be all super authoritarian. And I've studied history and I know what's up. They don't. So I don't play that game. I'm not the one out there trying to point fingers at people, shame them. And,
right. Exactly. Right. Again, that could be a whole other series. And I might do that sometime. I'll invite you back for some discussion.
Yeah. So, but that's, we're all different. We're all different.
Yeah.
We're all
so I noticed that when I was doing the golf streaming, my golf game did improve, and then I could intentionally kind of like go to certain holes that I struggled with and stuff like that, and I would have a better approach at it next time I played and stuff. So have you ever I've actually asked you this before in a live stream on chat, but have you ever been stuck at a level in a video game and so you dreamt your way through the solution?
Well, not so much for the games, but for things in waking life, that whole sleep on it kind of idea that we do know intrinsically, again, our dreams can be used for problem solving, skill consolidation. And there's actually studies on it that show people that work with their skill and with their dreams see improvement. So that's actually been scientifically studied. But again, without having that, of course, it's only for the people that engage that practice. And I say it's a tool, right? So I try to get people where they get out of the atrophy in a fun way. But once you get where you're no longer in training wheel or kindergarten mode with your dream experience, where you decide to take it beyond, say, the artistic perspective, now you have the tools. Now you can be self-aware. Now you have time to now pursue other things, whatever that's going to be, in self-exploration. They call it, the inner cosmos is a great way to determine it. It's and it's your inner cosmos, right? That's what oneironauts are, people that traverse the inner cosmos of themselves. And
yes.
So, but the thing is, you can't get there.
No limits at all.
I know. And so we get to that with overcoming limitation, because we habitually bring in how we are conditioned here by physical reality. So the sense of gravity, you can't fly. If you have that, you bring that into your dream states, or that wall that you're bumping into in the dream appears real. So you don't think you can walk through it, but of course you can. You can just press your face against it, maybe a little bit of resistance, but I've walked through enough walls and mirrors. I've had the through the looking glass Alice in Wonderland experience enough times to know that The dream state is not physical reality at all. It is a mind-generated interface based on accumulated experience, and a lot of that is formed with us from being in a three-dimensional, highly sensory engagement with reality. So our dreams mirror that, quite well. And but as an art form, when you become able to construct your dream like you did with your golf game, what are the limits? Those are your limits. I always say to people that the dream experience is self-imposed limitation always, right? So a lot of people like that baggage for their security. But when you go to sleep and you realize that, geez, what you do there is inconsequential. Look at it as a movie or a story or an adventure or something on a positive side, rather than, getting caught into ruminating drama. A lot of people just have dreams that are going to reflect their relationships and their anxieties and their fears, and they don't realize that they're ruminating, programming their dreams. But that's the other thing that my course will help them understand, and you become more cognizant of it. Like, oh yeah, that's why I dreamt that. It's because I was going to bed thinking that crap, and all of a sudden I dreamt it. And you get more hands-on in understanding the role of your thoughts and intentions and the impact on your dream content. So, self-evident, but you have to kind of really start learning the skill. And I kind of feel that that's what's been robbed from everybody, because our education system has treated it with some sort of level of, well, it doesn't matter, it's not important. Why should we train it? Yeah, exactly. Even though now they're catching on that everyone does dream, they can actually record what we're dreaming now. If you've been getting into that nice Black Mirror science that's emerging into the fourth industrial revolution, right? Wow. In fact, they can actually have computers now that can read genetic code, and so so they can actually now store a gift on a DNA, so they can store memory now in DNA. 1 gram of DNA can store up to, a picobyte of data. Huge, right? Wow. So people may not be knowing, while you were sleeping, I call it, people that don't pay attention, but man, they have a computer now that had been developed for, instead of binary, but to work with basically the nucleic acids that make protein. So now they have like, the T, the G, and all that kind of stuff, so that they can have this code. And I mean, the stuff that they're breaking through right now with neuroscience and stuff is light warp speed right now with AI, right? I'll tell you that much. And just be warned, because you got DARPA and weaponization of neuroscience is something that I would never go there. I have
exactly, very cautious there.
Do something doesn't mean you should. And I mean, I'm a very smart guy, and you won't see me sitting in a laboratory trying to figure out how to make a spike protein that can only bind to bat ACE2 receptors suddenly now be replaced and bind to human receptors, as an example. I mean, that's why bats can have 400 coronaviruses that don't infect humans, but all of a sudden one bat suddenly can infect us all. I don't know. Nature is not like that, but when you start to modify things here and change life, we can get some different results, and that's the future. Bioterrorism is the future, unfortunately, that we're facing.
It'd be cool though if you could see your dream, like if you could replay it somehow. I mean, you have visual memory, and I do, but it'd be cool if you could see your dream and go, oh, that's cool.
But the interesting thing too, if you start getting into that skill, is you can actually go and replay memories. And I actually had a student, 77 years old, I wasn't dreamt in 10 years, and he's more of a friend, and we've talked about all this kind of stuff. And so we took 77. Yeah, so he hadn't dreamt in 10 years, and he really liked what I was telling him about, because, he's kind of like, yeah, I kind of remember having really cool dreams. What happened there? And I explained to him how cognitive development takes place, and all of what I was saying to him, because he was an engineer and stuff like that. He's like, wow, you're like one of the smartest people I've ever met on this topic. Like, you have an answer for everything. That makes sense. Like, yeah. And so I said, this is what you need to do to start stimulating memory. And he started applying that, and then he started having dreams. But he said, oh, my dreams are all about back when I was in university, and it's amazing. I thought I was losing these memories. I'm like, no, that's what I was saying. Everything that you're experiencing in your life is actually being recorded and stored in you at a deeper level, and you can replay memories. I've gone back to like nightmares that I had when I was 5 years old when I'm in my 40s, right? So I've been able to replay, and that's not a big deal. But once you understand, like, just like here, if you start to remember parts of your life, right, think about it that way. So you're here and you go, okay, well, what was I doing, June 5th, 19,
oh my gosh,
whatever, right? And then you start remembering, oh yeah, I was at a birthday party and I remember all that. Well, take that to the dream state, try remembering there, and now you'll see what I'm talking about when it replays, right? So you can call forward memories, and it's amazing what we do really have that we think we lose, but it's not always the case.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And that concept right there is really big to me, that concept of memories and dreams and things. And so like I can definitely remember a lot of my dreams very vividly, some of them. And so I wonder why that is. But how do I say this? Are your dreams first person or third person?
They're both.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for sure. I have mostly first person, but third person can happen if I play third person video games. It's always kind of amusing. So if I'm chasing around a character in third person, I will replay it in third person because that's what the subconscious mind's interpreting, right? So,
Right.
But I definitely have. But again, when you move outside of the avatar, so we have an avatar in our dreams, is the only best term to use it. I know it's pulling from computer information and all that kind of stuff, but
cool.
the fact of the matter, it is a other part of ourself that we emulates our body even in the dream state. We usually think it's our body and we try to protect it and defend it and think it has cells and bones and are going to break, but no, none of that's real.
Right.
So the avatar is an interface again for your awareness, and you can change the avatar. You can step out of your avatar. You don't have to be in that current avatar because your awareness there, you're just it's hard to describe, but your awareness, and this is how I've trained myself, you can latch on and I've done stuff where I've explored other things in the dream canopy, like move into a tree and feel the perspective what my subconscious mind interprets that tree is, and have that kind of zoomorphic or objective dreaming. And I did that a lot when I was younger. I thought it was really cool. You could be an eagle or a panther or a spider or a scorpion or a cat. And I like that kind of stuff. And it was very much, you look at Zhang Wei, who had that dream where he was a butterfly and then thought he was a butterfly dreaming he was a human, or a human dreaming that he was a butterfly. Well, I can shine some light on that. He was pretty, ancient philosopher. You're you dreaming yourself of being that butterfly. It's not the butterfly dreaming about being you, but it is, you dreaming that experience as it is. It always will be you having an experience. That's it, and as you, so it's fun, but I like those perspectives. I mean, it's cool. I think when I was younger, I'd have one run like a horse. I remember that one was really cool, running really fast with other horses. And, that's a wild experience. That's a very kind of shamanic kind of fun, but that's not drug induced. Like, Serpent in the Rainbows when the guy gets a shot of DMT and now all of a sudden he's having that spirit animal or whatever. But
I can tell you actually from experience, drugs don't help your dreams. They really deaden, or at least for me, they deaden it.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, because again, this is a lot of people on the planet with access to the internet and a lot of cultural influences. I look at it this way: short-term gains usually have long-term consequences. We should at least know that. Look at steroids and bodybuilding is a classic example of that. And
right, totally.
Dream steroids are things like people who take melatonin because you might dream a bit more. What'll happen is too much use of melatonin actually stops your mind from producing it. So you can actually damage your neurochemistry through certain shortcuts when you're not allowing nature to just do its thing, right? And a lot of people, and that's just because people know that shortcuts tend to work for short-term gains. However, there's burnout. Like I know a lot of people that use drugs, and you got the younger people are all enthusiastic. Wow, I did some mushrooms, and all the universe opened up, and I'm one with it, and all this wonderful stuff. And they start to continue going that road, and now all of a sudden you meet them years later, and it's like, well, I'll never touch that again. And I got fears. I won't dream. It's like, what's happening there with all that stuff that you're doing that you thought was going to give you this amazing, and the thing is, it's because it's too much too fast for some people. I'm not saying everybody. Perhaps in a therapeutic way, when you look at addictions and things like that, we're seeing some promising use with microdosing. And I do think that there always is a medicinal purpose for things as well. But medicinal doesn't mean abuse, right? It's when it's abuse that it's a problem. And of course, we know with hard drugs, it becomes addictions, right? And so, and another thing people don't teach in the dream practice is substance-induced nightmares, right? So there's a lot of substances that actually cause our mind to produce nightmares, and people overlook that. If they're selling, supplements and things like that, they don't. Ketamine is a good example that give you dreams, but also give you some pretty damn scary and terrifying dreams. So I don't do drugs. I quit drinking 10 years ago. The only entheogenic experience I had.
Too. That helps a lot. Helps everything. Helps the clarity of the mind too.
Well, I wouldn't use drugs to learn how to drive my car, and I wouldn't use drugs to sit there at my job and try to engineer software. Just because it gets in the way, it'll distract and it'll create other patterns of thinking that may not necessarily be useful for that task. And so, and that's going to be embedding. You're going to be learning along that interface, but some people really live by it. And then that's their choice. I don't judge. That's what they want to do. But if you saw Carlos Castaneda's work, he was famous for it because he went and he met Don Juan, and he thought dreaming was entheogenic based. And so he wanted to try mushrooms and peyote and all these different types of drugs. Well, mostly peyote was the beginning of it, right? And again, nothing wrong with that. Terence McKinnon also did the same, and obviously had some very profound experiences with it. But in the bigger picture, Don Juan had told Castaneda at the end of his book, if you remember, that you didn't need the drugs. You could have done it all without it. And Castaneda was like, "What? Why'd you make me do all these drugs?" Because, well, you wanted to, you have your choice. So I'm like, okay, you want to do the drugs? Let's do the drugs. You want to drink alcohol? Let's drink alcohol. Let's have some fun, right? But that's not necessarily the best path. I do think in a certain degree, some people, especially like, when you get into cognitive decline, there's glutamine, which, I know some people have been doing the research on the glutamine and written some pretty great articles and research on it. And so glutamine is an Alzheimer's drug, right? And but this is the problem, right? So in a person, when they're seeing cognitive decline and they're losing memory, it can help to, sort of bring that back as a result, because our brain links to repurpose itself for dreaming. And so dreams start to come with that. And so now we're hearing people go, well, take glutamine because you're going to dream, right? And now the young kids, where they're still developing, are trying to buy bottles of glutamine so they go and have dreams. But the thing is, if you talk to these doctors they're studying, they're like, just like with melatonin, they're like, no, it's like a steroid, a dreaming steroid. I would never recommend somebody doing it, especially in a developing mind, is the agreed census. So you don't tell a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old or a 17-year-old to jump on glutamine to have dreams. They're developing. They should be able to train for it and stimulate memory, and they'll just do fine.
Build a foundation.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. And you already have the basic groundwork for it, because everyone's dreaming 3 to 5 dreams each night. The problem is that link to you, that link to your awareness as you hear. And if you get into the idea that we have, our waking consciousness, and then we have our subconsciousness, psychology kind of compartmentalize that. Like Freud did that with the ego and the id and the superego, that we kind of know that there's a bigger part of us as a bigger picture, right? And so I always look at our waking self as just that little, small pinhole, on the surface of this massive subconscious inner cosmos, and we are through a straw, sucking back information. And when you start to open up that straw and flood into it, there's a lot more information there, that's for sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, let it come naturally. It's safer and it's stable, and it'll keep with you for the rest of your life. You won't get burned out. But I do know people that get into the lucid dreaming and they get bored with it and they stop. And it's unfortunate, but then perhaps maybe they didn't take the artistic approach. I can't get bored. I mean, there's so many things you can use as source material in my area. I can never run out of things to dream about. There's interesting stories and novels. I mean, I could go back and start reading like Huckleberry Finn, man. I could go into, Mark Twain's work and start to have dreams based off of that. There's so many adventures that you can now create with this practice. It gets overlooked. So, if I get bored of my dreams, it's probably because I'm just doing boring things in my waking life and it's replaying. So, I try to have a little bit of entertainment with it is all I'm saying, just to keep myself interested and not bored. I'm always looking forward to the next adventure. Why not? It's not as adventurous here right now, I can tell you that much. So I'm quite, I never use dream for escape. Always be clear on that. And there's people that do take it for escapism. I don't support escapism. I think you got to face what's right in front of you. You can't run from it.
Sure.
And,
but it can be vacation.
Yeah, a vacation. It's how I look at it, right? But so I don't use it as escape. Some people want to use it as escape, and that's understandable. They're going through some very, it's tough to look in the mirror here, and sometimes that mirror there can be nicer. So,
like Ralph and the Simpsons. Oh boy, sleep. That's where I'm a Viking.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's all, and the thing is, we all know how it is to be human here. It's damn enduring, right? Life is not easy. It's a lot of work and a lot of responsibility for those who choose to have that.
Right.
Or have no choice, right? I'm not privileged, as you had that term that you are, but no, man, I never had a silver spoon. Got kicked out of my house, got 3 jobs, worked part-time, full-time. Man, I've worked a lot in my waking life, but I sure party hard in the dream state in terms of adventure and exploration and maintaining a practice that has yielded better than any entertainment system that I've yet to encounter here, period, including drugs. And it's way better than that. And,
awesome.
I don't want to ruin it with meddling with my own neurochemistry, because it is that good for me. It's quite an enjoyable, that's why I still do it. And create dreaming for gamers, I'm like, well, let's add a new perspective to this whole mix. And as you know, I've shown timestamp journal entries that go back on FidoNet to 1998, showing that I'm dreaming in Star Wars and dreaming in D&D and dreaming in GURPS, so
cool. Can I identify that?
Yeah, so it shows that there's not just some guy suddenly coming out, because that's the problem, is every time you come out and you're always meeting new people, nobody really knows you. It's only the people that really know you that know, okay, yeah, he's been at this for his whole life, man. This guy is like the dream guy that I know, and I still can't do it. And then I only have one friend, believe it, in my entire social group. Has to be a millionaire, a really rich guy, had it all, he has the cars and places all over, and he liked to listen to what I was saying about dreams because he had some lucid dreams. He goes, you got the point with that. There's something more to it, isn't there? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, geez, you're going to cultivate time and experience that you're losing otherwise. And so he was like really the first friend that I had that actually started engaging my material. I've written 4 books and written lots of stuff. It's usually just other people that don't know me or whatever that are like, yeah, I'm into this, and they find myself and they're like, wow, hey, this stuff's working great, thanks, and so he said to me, I've been doing that lucid dreaming thing that you were writing about. And he said, it's amazing. I go to sleep and there's just these amazing adventures. And he goes, man, I thought I had it all. He goes, I got the wife, the house, the 2 pools. And he goes, damn, because he's 60, right? He goes, I really wish I started when you did when you were 15. I understand why you're doing it. Like, I don't know how I missed that, and I find that too with the students now. They're like, oh, I just wish you had this out sooner, right? I wish I could have started this sooner. That's always the end result with people that get good with it, is that they kind of go, wow, how did I miss this? How was I not able to just participate in my own dreams? It's like having your dream life back. And you don't realize it's a gift, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm so fascinated by that because I have participated as an observer, sort of, a one that's feeling things and there, but like a virtual reality observer. Though I didn't really, I was following along. I love to go to sleep because I'm just like, okay, what's going to happen tonight? But I really like to have control over it, and I like that you teach that methodology. That's so great.
Well, for sure, because most people go to bed and there's our bad habits. What am I going to do? I'm going to go to sleep. Well, that's what you're going to get. Go to sleep. But if you go to bed and you go, I'm going to dream. Well, that's a different perspective now, isn't it? That's a sudden change in your negative versus positive. It's habitual in what we've done with just going to sleep. But you can then have, I think it's very important to work with a dream plan and a dream routine. No matter what it is, you're going to get results. Nice. Dream plan and dream routine is just like going to the gym. So what are you going to work on tonight, in the gym of your mind versus, so we do dream planning and dream routine is really important. And it's the same thing. So, if I go to the gym and I'm going to do workouts and work on my chest or work on my legs, or whatever it is, that there is a routine that you get into, right? So why would you not adapt a routine to your dream practice? You won't get results otherwise. It'll go away because of atrophy, right?
Yeah, I mean, you tend that practice regularly, and then you see results before you know it. You're just like, and if you can enjoy that practice, which I do with like exercise and weightlifting and stuff, I actually enjoy it, and if you do that, you get lost in it. So if you get lost in your dream world, and all of a sudden you're getting better and better, and that's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's the results, right? So with bodybuilding, you see the results in your body. You look in the mirror and see the changes. So we are very engaged with that. With a cognitive skill like dreaming, you don't see the results in your brain unless you had a fMRI machine taking a snapshot of your brain imaging as you're developing. You will see neural pathway development, and you will see these things starting to change, but it's cognitive. You only see it in the results of the dream content, and that's where you can start gauging your atrophy. That's where you can start gauging the stunted dream development, is in the dream content. And when you see that improve and you start to see that upgrade and you start to see more results, more time, more stability, you start getting out of the negative aspect of that, which is the rumination, the fear, the nightmares, the anxieties, and you start having fun. And you start to notice that training dreaming, like any skill, was the way we should all be doing it. But unfortunately, like I said, it's just not culturally there. And a lot of the times, because when you look at the history of dreamings, you had the Greeks, a lot of it comes from mysticism, and I'm not against that at all. People can bring their religious practice to it. They can bring their occult practice to it. They can bring their mystical practices to it, because that's their choice. That's their dreams, right? And a lot of people try to put that break on it, but I look at it as it's universal to everybody. It's been around since the dawn of time. It's universal to birds and mammals. So I don't take that whole I'm the dream guru or dream provider. I would never do that. But if I built a gym and said, come over to my gym and exercise, that's more of my attitude with it, is like, here it is, here's the gym, and you can't baby step anybody anyways through anything, right? So I don't get into that kind of mentality. I think it's important to help a person help themselves. It's a big difference. When you want to see real change in somebody, don't help them, but let them help themselves. Give them the tools and give them some advice and some guidance to do self-help.
Totally.
Huge results then.
Yeah.
So that's my whole philosophy too, reflected in that course training, is I'll give you the tools, and how you decide to paint the canvas of your mind is your choice, and it satisfies everybody, because now, people who have an Islamic faith can participate in their dreams. They can go, well, yeah, I want to go and explore my religious beliefs in my dreams, but I'm not dreaming. I don't know how. Well, thanks for giving me the tools without putting any kind of emphasis on my belief system. Same thing with people who are Christians. You read the Bible, you're supposed to, So you're communicating with God, right? So they want to go hang out with Jesus. Absolutely, go ahead. My father is a JW, and I'm sure he'd love to have some dreams with Jesus in it, and I would have no problem with that. And then of course Buddhists, we all know that they love dreaming. They're the Vedas, and the Vedas are very great at it. And of course you got the Australian Aboriginals, and they love dream time too, and Native Americans. So why should we create a cultural bias over dreaming? I don't, doesn't compute for me. It's like, yeah, go to sleep and have dreams.
It's funny because it's one of those things. People, the number one complaint I hear from people, I do personal training and coaching, all kinds of things, but is that they don't sleep well and they get poor sleep, and it's just. It's one of those things that you can just sort of overlook and just kind of think, your dream world especially, just think that your waking world is more important to think about and focus on and stuff. But it is such a big part of our world, and it does have such a dual role in our lives. And it's, again, such a fun place to be and stuff. I think everybody's really pay more attention to it. They probably sleep better too.
Yeah, well, the thing too is there's also techniques. We don't get into that in the first 4 courses. Then we get into you can do things like, we all know the military method or physical muscle relaxation. There's ways of putting your body to sleep that can help resolve things.
You mean like tensing everything and then relaxing, or
yeah,
what?
For sure. There's that. But I don't recommend that for beginners, because see, the thing is, a lot of the stuff that's out there there's good advice. I'll tell you that there's not everything that's written out there is false or misleading. There's some techniques, like for example, focusing on a single point and letting your body, doing the mind relaxation, getting into tension release, doing all of that to manually put your body to sleep, which isn't necessary for some people, because some people have a natural sleeping pattern. I try to make you work with your natural sleeping pattern as best as I can. But for some people, PMR is a great thing to work with. But when you're keeping yourself aware, one thing, physical muscle relaxation, right?
Okay.
Relaxing yourself into sleep. But the problem is our brain goes through a change where it releases glycine and GABA. And what that is they're going to inhibit transmissions to your muscles and cause a state known as sleep paralysis. Now, a lot of beginners don't like sleep paralysis because
I have that sometimes.
They don't like the fear it generates, you see, because quite often when you're in that state, you're not used to it, you're not orientated, you're not familiar. Suddenly becoming self-aware in a mind-awake, body-of-state sleep for a beginner that has skeletons in the closet, has rumination, has fears, what's going to happen? Oh, something happened to me, and oh no, I'm scared. And this goes much of mind goes fear response. Boom! There's your old hag. There's your shadow people. There's your demons. There's your goblins. There's whatever it is that you believe in now. That's negative.
Are you saying that you see this as a pattern in people who have learned through PMR? How to go?
Yeah. Well, I used to do sleep paralysis induction for my practice because I didn't know any better. I just knew that I could get my body to fall asleep while staying awake. I didn't, when I got into lucid dreaming, I used a very simple technique, and it caused every time sleep paralysis, every time. It was unavoidable, right? But I didn't have the fear at that point. So, like in the very beginning, there was some sort of, orientation that I had to go through, because I still had, of course, skeletons in my closet, and largely derived from belief systems like, belief in evil and hell and all that kind of stuff. And so I had one kind of funny dream where now I'm meeting Satan in a sleep paralysis state. Very common.
In sleep paralysis?
Yeah, and of course, the goblins and the shadow people and that kind of stuff. But now I'm older and wiser and very keen to what's going on there. And of course, in that dream, I'm fully awake, just like I am right now. So you have your full utility of your logical, rational, self. And looking at this avatar or archetype now expressing these, things that are obviously derived locally from here, from, that source material. And I look at it and I go, well, no, you're not Satan. You're not this. You're actually just an aspect of my subconscious mind. And I deconstructed it. So I focused on it and used dream control and turned it into a fractal hypnagogic mesh, which is that hypnagogia that you see when you fall asleep. And just like, away with you. You're not real. You're just a figment of my warped imagination. Goodbye. And then I went off and just had a nice exploration. Like I was like, okay, well, I don't need to have these little skeletons in the closet and go on the matrix. So
I can see that, like with Satan or with a goblin or something. It's pretty. I mean, it is sort of clear what they are, and so I think I could see how you could convince yourself of that. But what if it's just a nameless figure, that's there in that sleep paralysis state and stuff? Is it? I've had that, and it's hard to convince myself that it's anything. I feel like I have to fight it or yell at it or something.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't encounter that now. I mean, when I was younger, yeah, I did encounter, the shadow people and those kind of things that people talk about certainly arise in that. But for me, it's like, how do I describe it? I overcame shadow people because what was happening was that was an issue of perception, believe it or not. And I wasn't now reading the dream characters that were there. So because the information was not processing properly, they looked like shadow people. And one time I was staring at them because I had no fear, right? So now I'm not like, oh my God, I'm threatened. I got to protect my body and all that kind of stuff.
You just check it out.
I shifted my perception just enough, and all of a sudden they all looked like normal people, and I could actually see their faces, and that scared them. They're like, "You can see us," and off they go running away, right? But that's just drama in the subconscious having fun. But
cool,
it's but that for me, like I've done a lot of exploration in this state. I spent a lot of time there, and so you kind of go through, like I said, house cleaning, orientation, so that you can be there where you don't have the things that go bump in the night.
The shadow work.
Right? Yeah, exactly, right. And that's the Jungian side of it for sure, and the anti-self. And but the thing is, when you get into that practice where now you have a functional dream and you're in control, it's like, thank you, LaBerge. If you didn't plant that seed of power trip controlling your dreams, I wouldn't have gone all Neo in the Matrix with it. I would probably taken a different path. In fact, I probably never have done it at all. I mean, well, I probably would have, because eventually the more information that's come out now about, yes, we can be self-aware with that's more popular today than it was when I was starting it. And so we have more influence on the internet, but unfortunately, like everything, be very careful of what the information is, because some people are throwing out gimmicks for clickbait, inventive ones, like, and no offense to people that like crystals, I mean, everyone likes crystals, but some people think you can put a crystal under your bed and it's going to make you have a lucid dream. It's like saying, well, that crystal's going to teach you how to play piano, and take that crystal to the gym and put it on your bench and see what kind of workout you get from it. Some things are active skills, and dreaming is an active skill, and I think that's an important thing to people kind of wrap their head around. It's also neurologically developing with you. So we see that in fMRI studies, the neural density of people that are active dreamers in all the regions of the brain that deal with dream information versus people that are not, and they have less neural density, neural pathway density. Very obvious, it's developmental. So but
the advantage of working, I'm sorry.
No, go on.
I was just saying the advantage of working with you would be like, as versus teaching oneself, which is like how I am trying or have done and stuff. Working with you is that you avoid those pitfalls, and you can kind of help them through that, and that just seems like a much easier way to go than suffering.
Yeah, I think it's honest. Well, I banged around in the dark, right? So, and I had to go through people thinking I was insane and crazy because I participated in my own dreams. And I took the attitude of, well, I was like with them, like, well, I know what I was dreaming last night. What did you dream? Oh, I don't remember. And I'm like, oh.
Right.
And I'm like, I know what I'm dreaming. I know when I'm dreaming. I can control my dream. What can you do when you're there? I don't know. I don't dream, but you're crazy because you do. And I'm like,
Right.
That's okay, but hey, you're doing drugs. That's great. How's that working out for you?
Exactly.
Yeah, people will jump on like massive doses of magic mushrooms to have an experience, but they don't want to dream. That's way more kicking the ass and going to sleep and just participating in something very natural, something very part of you that's been there since your childhood. But yes, I understand the fears. I understand.
You can go there every night, and I see it a refreshing, regenerating period and stuff. I've always just kind of seen.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, let's say when you go to sleep and you have a positive dream. So we talk about the limbic system. So the fears are creating the nasty stress, cortisol releasing badness, and but you have the second side of and I'm not saying to do it for the ones that wake up with a happy ending. We know the limbic system gets affected. So in a positive dream, you're releasing dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. That's all been studied.
Sure.
You are when you're having a good dream. And what are the effects of that on your health? Improved immune system.
Yes.
It increases your hippocampus development. Better memory, right? And it helps with promote your prefrontal cortex development. And so it's interesting how we're built in a body that can have benefit or consequence just in our hormonal system and our limbic system. So cortisol can lead you in the direction where you now get ulcers because it's in your gut, So just study up on the effects of certain hormones that our body releases. So why would you want to release the negative ones when you have positive ones?
Yeah, right.
So we get into that too with the dreaming and the limbic system. So that's why I try to promote positive dreaming.
Nice.
Not negative dreaming. Who wants that?
So, like in the construction of your dream worlds, I've worked with memory palaces. Are you familiar with those?
No, I'm not familiar with memory palaces, but I probably have something similar to it. If you describe it to me, I might encounter it because I have persistent dream worlds that I can go back to and things like that, which could be like considered maybe a memory palace. I don't know. Is that kind of like what you're talking about?
It may be. It's a method of learning things. I was using it to learn some Chinese medicine, and so. But you structure basically a building that from reality. Like you could use. I used a school, college that I went to, And then inside of those rooms, you place memories that things that you want to remember, and you make it however you want to. You can illustrate it and make it as visual and sensory as you want. But then,
Mm-hmm.
so then the idea is you can return to that building and go to that room to access that memory or that piece of information.
Yeah, and I think that kind of describes what I've done with persistent dream building. You know how we have reoccurring dreams, right? And we all have those dreams that'll pop up. And I still have recurring dreams occasionally that come up from my childhood that I always find fascinating now. Now it's not like it was when I was a child, and maybe been scary, but persistent dream world building is something that, I don't have a course on it yet, but I know people like myself where, we have certain places that we go back to and that we enjoy. And so you can have some continuity too in the dream state. I know some people, I've at least read about some people that, I was talking with one person that always is working on their persistent dream world, and very big into, everyone adapts their own practice. When they start getting good at it, it's kind of interesting what they do with it. So to them, they liked having their persistent dream world as a very big part of their investment in their dream practice, right? And we related because I'm like, yeah, I actually have some places that I like to return to. And I met another person, a lot of people like shopping malls. I have a lot of shopping mall dreams, but that's because we have shopping malls that we go to. It's a nice, fun place to go and have coffee and meet people and things like that. So
I can remember shopping malls very clearly that I've been to in my life, a lot of them very clearly.
Yeah, exactly. And memory is important. I mean, I think the whole thing that we struggle with when we're not working with our memory is amnesia. Especially with sleep, we see that. And even in your waking life, we go into where our memory compartmentalizes. And it's always there, but it takes time sometimes to pull older memories forward and have that come backwards. Because we're living in a present moment. We're optimized for right now because of Earth is a survival-based system. You got to be ready for predators and things like that. We don't think about it that way, but it's really the way it is. So our mind is optimized for survival right now. And there's obvious reasons for it. You're driving your car. You got to be aware of that person now pulling out in front of you. So we're living with split-second decisions that can have, great impacts, in our lives. So I understand that. So you're not sitting here in your life going, oh yeah, well, I'm going to stay floating in my dream state and, thinking about that. I set my dreams aside when I wake up, unless of course someone asks me about them and now I'm talking about it. But then other than that, I'm focused on my day and my career and my profession and my responsibilities. And then, once all that's done, it's like I have no choice. I'm going to bed. So, great. Now it's time to go and do what? Dream, not sleep.
That's
plenty
wild.
of that for
I was just thinking about dream recall and memory recall. And to me, when I think about a memory from childhood or a dream that I've had from childhood, certain ones, it feels exactly the same. The recall is exactly the same to me. And so it makes me wonder, you go through your daily life and you're not thinking about your dream world, but then you go to your dream world and you're maybe not thinking about your wake life. But then, those memories for me are identical in recollection,
Yeah,
quality.
I talked to a lot of people, of course, on dreams, and there was one person that were getting into dream memory, and they were saying, well, I can have dreams where all, suddenly, it seems familiar, the deja vu dreams, right? And I'm like, well, think about all the dreams that you are producing in the 3 to 5 that you're amnesic in, right? So don't you think that maybe sometimes you're encountering those dreams now are starting to come into your perspective, and they're like, oh yeah, I never thought of that. There's a lot of blank slates there, right? But you'll find that too, engaging their dream practice, you might start encountering some of the dreams that you've lost, that have been in that amnesic state that may now reoccur. And but I do meet people in this practice, you'll find that person always has that one dream. Like, trust me, talk about dreams with some people, and you'll find oh my God, I had this one dream, and you find the one dream people.
So true.
And they're like, how many dreams have you had? And I'm like, millions. Millions.
But do you have one dream? That one dream, and
yeah, I have so many. There's dreams that have been just as rich. Like, I look at my waking life, and you have highlights in your waking life. And one of the greatest moments was watching my daughter get born, as an example. You have things that just always will stick with you as amazing. Your first dog when you're a kid. Those. Well, I guess that's me just saying, that's the things that you really just go, wow, life is so incredible, and you come out of that. Well, it's the same thing with dreams. Like, I have a lot of dreams, unfortunately. So, the first one obviously is my first lucid dream. Was one example of that. It's like being now suddenly accessible to a completely different perspective that you just had no access to. That you become a prisoner in your own mind, so to speak, and you just let the bird out to fly finally. Kind of concept. Yeah. So it's like a freedom that you've never tasted before, and it didn't involve drugs. Just attention focusing, participation. Yeah. So, and then there's been so many highlights from obviously the genre stuff. If you like a movie, I'm very nostalgic. So, when Lucas changed Star Wars, I wasn't the pro. I like history. I don't like seeing it changed. like learning from it. So nostalgia is a big thing for me, but that's me. I don't force that on people, but I like going back to things because of nostalgia. So same thing with dream experiences that embed a really great thing. The problem is there's just too many. I've been doing this for so long, from just way too many. They're all good. There's so many. I very rarely and I look at my dream practice now compared to when I started in terms of bad dream content, because we'll get into that wildness of subconscious. I think, in the course of 33 years, I can see 4 dreams that I found disturbing in the content versus when I was younger and there was a lot of disturbing content. And that disturbing content's that Norman Bates influence. And so that's pretty good to have that much of a run and then bump into them. But, for example, when I was younger, content that would disturb me, because I wouldn't like it in my waking life and I wouldn't like it in my dream life, was I was at an Orange Julius in a mall and they had a human cadaver that they were serving up as food for it, right? And it just disturbed me. It's so bad in that dream. But that was when I was younger, and that's the wildness of the subconscious mind, right? So something like that would be very unpleasant. And of course, that's house cleaning, getting rid of that. So, but when I look in the very big field now of the accumulated experiences, the Norman Bates stuff, I call it, or the stuff that I don't want, it's very rare to surface. And usually it's from an influence from the waking world, in the media or something. It does pop up because your mind's going to replay it. And there's things that places in this world, shadowy places, I don't want to go. Some people go there. I don't want to leave it.
That's interesting. So, like I was wondering, then, if you're in a game world or a world movie world in your dreamland that you've created, you're investigating, what about the narrative of that game or dream world? Do you follow it, or do you have your own thing going on? Or
it can be too. I've had really accurate replays of movies and things like that when I was big into movie training, and it was amazing because you could be like, I've been Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader simulating in the dreams, Wolverine and Colossus from
fun
Marvel, and so that's definitely. And there are, when I was really big into it, like Batman when it came out, there were big influences for me as a nerd, and I love trying to see if I could simulate those in my dream state. Just that's my challenge to myself as a dream artist. And what are some of the other funny ones from back in the day? Akira, that was awesome, great.
Nice. You ride that big motorcycle in your dream.
Yeah. Oh, I got to be Tetsuo from his perspective, and that was a funny and really powerful, cool dream experience. And Ghost in the Shell as well, elements from that. And there's so many. Yeah, I like but the thing is, my flavor in anime is the real cyberpunky kind of stuff. So you'll see me now training cyberpunk. I played cyberpunk back when it was pen and paper RPGs.
Yeah.
GURPS and Shadowrun and
Shadowrun. That's the one.
Yeah, Shadowrun was great because that was the one that had all the orcs and trolls, a street sound.
Yeah, it had some magic and some. Yeah, that was cool.
But I like role-playing games again as an artist, as a writer. Somebody that likes the imagination. I just saw value in fantasy. Right. But as a narrative, as you say, role play, right? Just for fun. And I adapted to that for dream play as well. Why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many, geez, trying to think of my first dungeons. I had so many when I was a kid. Like when we were playing D&D, I had a character named Gregor, and he was a paladin, right? And so
sweet.
Course, you're the lawful good hero in the fight against evil. And I remember closing my eyes and creating, those same stories, and next thing I know, I'm in that environment with a knight and I'm a paladin, right? That was great. I had an encounter with a succubus from the Monster Manual when I was 12 in one of my dreams, and scared me a bit because I didn't understand why it would happen. But then I studied the Monster Manual, so of course I'm going to have information here that's going to then incorporate.
You're right.
But I've seen it all. Anything you can imagine, like anything that we create here, you can simulate in the dream state. So. For example, I've met Santa Claus in my dreams and hung out with him, for sure. Dragons, aliens, anything that we have here as a archetype, a character, even from imagination, can conjure them up very convincingly in the dream state. But I just know then when that's happening, that's what it is. It's a dream. It's not a real dragon. It's not a real alien. I don't associate that level of realism to it that some people like to. I don't create a confirmation bias over it that proves that dragons are real. Yeah, in that dream it is. It's definitely a very real simulation of a dragon, but I don't feel like I'm traveling into another reality where that dragon is real and I could go back in it there. But because of dream memory, and persistency, yeah, in a certain way, I can keep that alive for a period of time and go back.
But you are in control of it.
Yeah, exactly. You're the artist. That's what the dreams should be for. It's art. You're a creator.
Yeah.
get in the driver's seat of the art, and dream what you want to dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people, unfortunately, at the wildness of their dreams because of influences. So we get into that in the dream courses. What's influencing your dream content if you don't like it? What's the because in our waking world, we look in the mirror, we see our body, but when we go to sleep and we look in that mirror, it's our mind that we see. And we know that from psychology and studying dream content, that a big part of it is, tell me what you dream. So says Floyd, right? So we can psychoanalyze, tell me about your mother, right? But I'm not into that so much. I'm not into dreaming for meaning and interpretation. I know some people that are really good at it, and I always direct people in that direction. I'm the guy that says, okay, let's get into active dreaming. Let's get into dreaming what you want to dream. You can always incorporate the meaning stuff later, but I think a lot of people just need to know how to dream and how to have fun with it and not get all caught up in the won't be everybody, because some people want to go to dreams. I want to have power, control over the universe.
Right. Or the typical, probably fly or have sex.
That part is fun. Yeah, of course, the titillation part of dreaming for sure. That's most young people. If I start talking about, wow, can you have sex in your dreams?
Right.
And it's like, well, the funny thing about titillation in dreaming is that it connects to your limbic system. So unless, so it's not bad, but it'll wake you up.
Exactly. Yeah.
You'll find those dreams can be very short-lived. So by 24. I stopped chasing titillating dreams. I can say very much sure because I enjoyed the time there. So I like that in waking life because that's what it's for. So I had a pretty good
life
and stuff like that. But for the dream state, yeah, it's fun. I mean, people, everything in this world's having sex, birds, animals, everything. It's just part of nature. It's a part of what we are. It's a part of our survival drive. And without it, we wouldn't have, a future for anything because they wouldn't reproduce, right? So but dream sex, you're not really doing that, and it kind of wore off on me. But when I won't deny, up to about the age of 24, 25, I think, because I remember I had a kind of a send-off for myself on that. I was like, yeah, maybe my dreams and being with supermodels and
yeah,
that poster on your wall, when you're a teenage boy. Totally. And then you can make that poster suddenly come to life and that person walk out and like, hey.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It was when I was younger, but 48 now and had a kid and different pursuits, different interests, but absolutely.
There's so much. It's like the other things you can create just.
It overwhelms you in the mysteries of art, that pursuit of art and creative things, right? And but yeah, I mean, I meet people that I've had people that come into the and they say their source material is porn, and I'm like, great, go ahead. I mean, I don't judge. It's your world, they're gonna be looking at it on the internet. I mean, it's just a part of our world, and so I don't get into people get very how dare somebody look at another person. That's human culture here. I don't get into it. I just but I do feel that it's important, like in society, we do have to have a certain social responsibility for sure for each other. And I like the group of people that like to help other people and don't judge and, listen, actually listen to why a person's there struggling or starving on the streets and what got them there and try to be helpful, but not helpful in the way that it, it's tough. It's a tough world. It really is. It's things can change on a dime, as you can see in 2020, how quickly it can change on a dime. But we're all playing a role here. We all have our, whether we choose it or not, responsibility. It's a tough one. The world's not necessarily forgiving. I mean, it certainly hasn't, aside from providing me a nice career that I worked hard for. And, I would trade that in a second just to be able to dream all day.
But my art, you like doing the YouTube?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do like software engineering. Part of me is very artistic. Another part of me is very logical and very scientific. And likes, I read a lot. I mean, I love reading a lot of scientific papers. 80% of the internet's used for porn. I quit looking at porn 10 years ago.
About the same time of dream.
Yeah, exactly. You go through phases in your life. You're like, and it's not to vilify it. It was just that I thought, this is boring. What's more boring than watching somebody else have sex? And that was my epiphany. It was like, it's done. Yeah. Just there's been too much of that easily available at the click of a button. Every time you go on a website, it's popping up. And so we're constantly being sexualized by information that's here. And after a while, you just kind of get tired of it. It's like, yeah, when I was younger, it was all right. But that's when you're hormonal. That's when your body's telling you, go out there and reproduce. But it's funny because all that happened after I had my daughter, right? After I brought my child into the world, I changed. I was like, oh, suddenly my priorities are different. You know, I succeeded at that art of reproduction. I brought a child into the world. I'm a very happy father. And the pursuit of that now is like done for me. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to have another kid. So let's move on to other interests. You know, let's move on to more artistic and creative ventures in oneself. You know, what other uncharted territories are there, you know, that you can get into that would be very intriguing and thought-provoking and self-edifying. And yeah, so it's just, but that's again me navigating through my own experience. I mean, everyone will have a different path, right? And
you know what? I'm sorry. I think I hear my cat meowing. I think I locked him in a room. Can you hang on just one second?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
Sorry about that. No, I was wrong. He's meowing at me, but he's in the room with the door open. So anyway, thanks.
Oh, that's okay.
I came home actually earlier from the store, and he was in the bathroom, and I was like, the door was closed. I was like, oh, so.
Yeah. Well, we probably should wrap up because I do want to. Cyberpunk is officially downloaded, so I'm going to do a live stream myself on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to start training Cyberpunk for the first time. I've had 2 dreams in Cyberpunk. I love it. Oh my god, because it's my RPG side of myself. I love that art. My first Cyberpunk dream. Like, I mean, when I'm telling you how real it is in my dream state, it's really hard to describe until you get there. But it's like it starts off, and here I see just 2 characters that are now cybernetically enhanced, and they're part of a gang. And I come into the dream, I get into the role play, so I stabilize, and if my dream's role playing, I go with it, right? And they want to recruit me into this gang, and of course it's all cyberpunk, right? And it's from watching all the Nightwire City stuff, and I didn't want to spoil it, but they delayed this game so much, I was like, okay, damn it, I want to have some dreams in cyberpunk because of the RPG days. And off I go, and I have to take on this factory and infiltrate, and they're hooking me up with guns. I get a smart machine gun, I get a smart shotgun, I get all these really cool gadgets that are, whatever my subconscious mind now still has data on. And next thing I go on this real action-based dream, and that one. Wow. And then I have another one.
That sounds fun. But you haven't actually played the game in reality?
No, I haven't yet. I'm going to tonight. Tonight's the first introduction to actual gameplay, but the second one was really awesome too, because I was watching the Nightwire City videos, and they kind of take you on a tour of what the world's like. And there was one that was showing all the vehicles, so I was mapping out the vehicles. I love cars, so I can't drive a Lamborghini here. I never have, but in my dream state, man, I like to rock a sports car.
Yeah, that sounds fun. We'll go driving now in the dreams.
Oh God, I love driving dreams. They're amazing. Because you don't have to worry about being pulled over, and you can go as fast as you want. And if you crash, it doesn't matter. So you don't have to have those inhibitions. And so I go full throttle.
I love driving. I don't know why I haven't thought of that before.
Oh yeah, God, I love it. Like, and especially since I can't afford a Lamborghini and don't have that privilege. So
right.
I can make a car appear as realistic, and it's amazing how your mind can do it. And I like cars. I mean, so not a huge car buff like a lot of people, but I do pay attention. When I was a kid, I was really.
You can appreciate a good car though, and driving it.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Who doesn't? They're amazing. And so here I am in the dream, and I start seeing the cars that at least were being presented in the Nightwire City, and it was awesome. Like even the dump truck.
What is the Nightwire you're talking about?
That's the Cyberpunk live stream on Twitch that they were doing, and they would just present stuff in the game. So I stuck with a lot of that as training. If you go on our Discord channel, you'll see that some of the other students were dropping in Cyberpunk and other source material. And I've had somebody else that ran the course and had some success with Cyberpunk as well. They chose that as their source material without the game being there. So there's 3 of us now that are going to train Cyberpunk probably tonight.
Cool, man.
And it'll take me, it's hard to say because I've watched a lot of Nightwire, so I do have a bit of a basis for it. So I hope that may not be tonight, but I definitely, I usually find within 1 to 2 to 3 days of a new source material, I'll see incorporation. Within a week, usually I can start getting an interactive replay. If I stick with it in a month, well, I can chain every night. I can go back into simulating that genre or source material until I get bored, and then I move on to something else.
And you can always access it in the future if you want to go back to it just for fun.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly, right.
That's so.
I like to explore that.
It's as someone who can visualize very clearly and is really into that and stuff. And I don't play video games anymore. I used to be huge into it. I'm really intrigued by taking control of the dream world like that.
Yeah, and the thing too is the art of it. The art of it's whatever you want it to be, because remember, there's a relativity with dreams, so like Einstein's theory of relativity. Well, the same thing with your dreams will always be reflective of you and your experiences, your beliefs. That is always the way it's going to be. Like for example, I may never go to sleep and dream about what your mother looks like until I actually meet her and see her type thing. If I don't have the information or the data, it's not going to incorporate into my dreams. But if you start getting data and information from vast sources, well, it sure builds up the lexicon of dream paint, I call it. So everything is paint for your dreams is a good way of looking at going through life, and choose the paint wisely. There's certain crayons you may not want to paint with. So,
Yeah.
And I make that clear in source material selection. I say, if you don't want to have nightmares, maybe don't take a horror game or a horror movie and train on that. Take something that you're going to like. And that's just the thing, because some people are like, you're going to get people to dream all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, they're actually dreaming about it anyways, because it's the way the mind consolidates memory. So if they are playing video games, they're probably going to have the Tetris effect, and they're probably going to see that happen anyways if they start remembering their dreams. So
I've dreamed video games.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's just part of how your mind's going to consolidate information. So it's not a big thing. But like I say, I just find that because of the internet and being around for so long, that's most of the time people freak out about it. I don't get it. I don't know why. And that's also why my site's probably just kind of sitting there in the fringe corner of the universe, which is totally fine by me. I don't mind it, because it's paces me well. It'd be pretty hard if it got pretty busy.
It could be so niche. It's part of the woo. Part of woo.
which is fine for me. I mean, but the funny thing is, when people start running through those courses and seeing how fast the results come, it's suddenly not so woo. It's suddenly applicable. They understand it too. They understand, oh, now I know why I wasn't stimulating my brain properly for my dreams, and now that I'm seeing these results. So up to them if they're going to continue to work on that style of training. Like I get to the 5th course, which is the core dreaming techniques, and my goal with that is to, just like a coach or a trainer, say, okay, these are all these exercises that you now have worked with. Build out your long-term dream plan yourself. Focus on what areas that you're weak in, and start adding that into a regimen of training if you want to train the skill, rather than just passively dreaming, which most people do. And there's nothing wrong with that, again, like I said. But if you're really into fine-tuning the art of it, you want to just do it like a professional. You just do a little and dream. I always make fun of it, because going to the gym, man, that's 45 minutes of hard work. And we do it because we know it has a benefit to it, so we do it, right? And but dreaming, people don't see the benefit. But the same thing, you go to that gym of your mind and you train it, you get those results, and when it starts to show the results, like the first time you had that extra 20 pounds on your bench, you're like, yeah, I did it. There's gratification and in that, the merits of your own self kind of achievements that you can get with it. But the thing that I won't do with Dreaming for Gamers is turn it into like another one of those sites that you go to and they're all pimping supplements and trying to get. The only thing that I'm selling is the courses on there. They're not expensive at all compared to what other people charge, but it's because, that's 22 years of my work and my own unique path and perspective on it, which I find people, if you understand the internet, and a lot of people poach some of my stuff.
And that's a lot of, that's not just 22 years of like casual study. I mean, that's like, you're into it, you're actively working on it. Like, I mean,
every
you sleep every night, so.
Yeah. And it's, and the nice thing about it is, it's like, whether I want to tell somebody what I dreamt or not, I don't care. They don't care. I know. It's like,
I was always the guy who cared. I always asked people about their dreams and was.
I do too. I love hearing about, and I honestly like listening more to, like, one of the things that I like is watching progress in the students when they start going from like, oh yeah, like, because the thing is, when we go to sleep and we go into that shift into dreaming, we start going into that way of thinking visually and auditory, the hypnagogic shift. I call it REM replay, or the sensory replay construction, when you're trying to think in the sensory forms that are shaping the dream and directing the dream. So we call it SRC, or sensory replay construction. I know it's one more of the acronyms out there, but that's the dream world. LaBerge did a great job with introducing all those little acronyms, but mine is the SRC, and that's building up the dream environment by working with your source material, painting the canvas of your mind now, using your thoughts as paint. And it's a great approach for it, because it works. It works. So why would I go with something that doesn't work? And it's beautiful too when it starts to emerge visually. So the students will start off and go, yeah, my first run through of my source material, I try to use audible visual in the beginning. You want reference, like a good artist. That's the other point that I'm trying to get through, is like, look, you're going to sit down and draw a picture. It's easier to do it if you have reference. So if you're going to start to learn how to train active dreaming, get some reference. That's what the source material is all about, is the reference. And also provides stimulation. So there's a lot of reasons for it. But then they'll start saying, okay, well, I reviewed my source material, but it was your inner monologue. We think that way. We're so one-dimensional in our thinking as we enter that space. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, no, I'm starting to see visually the memory of my source material. That's developmental as well. It's not going to happen, instantly, like a lot of people promise. It develops as your mind develops, as those little neural pathways and things that you're working with start to wire up properly to get that result. And then they get what I call, it becomes the HUD, right? Like you suddenly just got slammed with the VR goggles and the sound phones, and all of a sudden it's like, it's there. They get shocked and they say, oh, suddenly it became super real, and I pushed it away. That's the average reaction of the newbie. Once they hit the self-aware, the dream snaps in, and you're like right there looking at it, and it's now real. It's like, it's a very impressive thing. It made me push back when I was younger too, but pushing back just means no dreams, right? So you learn to now allow it. Wow, what a difference. Okay, well, this is starting to happen. I recognize this is now the dreams emerging. I'll allow it. That's it. Different perspective, different approach.
Do you feel that affirmations, like repeating something to yourself verbally on the way to sleep, helps?
Yeah, I think, it's like going to the gym. You do that all the time. We always do that. Like, oh, I got to go get some groceries. I got to go do this. I got to go do that. You're always planning and use words to do it, right? So I do think that there's a certain merit to, I go to the gym. I'm going to set up 15 reps, and I read my, if you do it, you have your routine in your book and you're looking at what you're going to work on. It just helps to organize your mind. It's the same thing when you're going to sleep. If you start going there and just go, okay, I'm going to sleep. Well, that's what you're going to get. You go, okay, well, I'm going to prepare myself for dreaming, and this is my workout routine. This is my dream plan, and I'm going to execute this dream plan. Well, what a difference, when you go and execute a dream plan versus just going to sleep.
What is it if you don't know where you're going? It doesn't matter which road you take.
That's right. But a lot of people are passive dreamers, and it's not their fault. That's just how they've been influenced culturally for it. And that's, you need to have a dream school, I guess, to kind of go in this direction. But I really hope, more people kind of jump on it and find that it's it's different, and they can incorporate everything else. I find students mixing in a lot of different types of their own personal practices. And that's, like I say, at Dreaming for Gamers, we don't try to discriminate from anybody or anyone, male, female, religion, culture, that doesn't matter to me. We all dream. It just has to be very open to people who want to just learn how to, so I don't, I always cringe when it's one group, they want to control something and make it special, but
right.
I like making people know that your dreams are special to you, and you're the one going to make them special. And hopefully whatever that is for you is going to have that merit and benefit. Yeah, and have some fun, blow off some steam. Who knows what adventures await.
I love that you have this, this defined paradigm of the gaming, but you're not limited to that. You're open to other disciplines and things and other walks of other, what do you call it? Worlds.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Well, this world's an amazing world, and I have it, I would be very boring if we're all the same person, I think. And I value history. I like culture. I like different cultures. I love our history, and artistically too. Like, when you're an artist, you don't look at somebody and start getting into divisive labeling and go, well, that's an old person and they're ugly and oh, they're the skin color and all that kind of stuff. I don't function that way. I can't. Yeah, exactly. I see everyone as amazing. The fact that you exist and that you're enduring this crazy world, you're a miracle. And don't diminish the miracle. And I don't want to diminish it for myself or other people, but everybody's different. And I know, hate is a very nasty thing, and our intellectual mind likes to use labels, and I don't like using labels when I approach a person. Look at them as a label. I never have. I see through all that, and I see people, and I see people that are enduring and challenged, with different complications and different. Everybody has that. That's part of life, right? And I don't want to step on toes, I call it. I don't want to walk around and reach into a past wound from our history and bring it forward so it never heals, and slap you in the face for it. How dare you be in my world today when 500 years ago something bad happened? How dare you? Shame on you.
It's like, what's happening now? What are you really experiencing now?
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, well, gee, if I had my hot tub time machine, man, you and I could go back and we could fix that. So let's do that. Always has a solution. Let's jump on that time machine and fix history. Not gonna
happen. And you have the patent to Google. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, history, it's brutal. You look at what humanity had to endure. People don't realize how good we've actually had it for so long. When you get into history and study times of great plagues and famine and war, and it's a brutal history here on Earth. So we've been very lucky to have the amount of peace we've had, even though there has been wars. It hasn't been world war like World War II. A lot of people forget that and forget what happened to a lot of people when people become wanting to clean up their society and get rid of what they consider to be riffraff because of whatever motivator or view that they had suddenly becomes murder, mass murder. It's also known as democide, and we have a history of democide on this planet. Pol Pot, the killing fields, Stalin, the Red Famine, Mao, the Cultural Revolution there. and Hitler, of course. And it doesn't stop. There's still a lot of stuff that you see, the Rwandan genocide, and I'm not ignorant to that stuff, and I think it's horrific, but it's not me doing it, thank God. I don't like hurting people or animals. Me petting your cat, that's
Yeah.
you
Yeah, well, and you know about the wars and things. I grew up as a martial artist, and my teachers were they were classical Japanese, and so they were always like, "Be thankful that you're not at war, that you're someone who can train in these arts and be at peacetime."
Yeah, and people don't realize how quick it changes, and that's usually how it happens. You're like sitting at your house, and it's all beautiful, and you're looking up at this blue sky, and all of a sudden a bomb drops, and the thing is, I can put myself in those shoes. I see it in my dreams. They definitely put me through wartime type scenarios and things like that. So it's like, you don't wish that on anyone. It's not a place to take humanity. Exactly. But unfortunately, history, shows us that it's inevitability, unfortunately, until humans come back to coming back to love and not hate, and not being so selfish and greedy and wanting to always control and have this and have that. It's the same thing. It never works out. How did it work out for Hitler? He's dead. That didn't work out so well, did it, Hitler? But look at the damage. Look at the cleanup that needed to come after that. It usually ends up being the people afterwards that have to clean up the mess. And this planet's pretty messy right now, so I don't know how we're going to fix that. But
that's when you go to sleep in the Castle Wolfenstein.
Yeah, exactly right. You study history. I like cultural dreaming, I call it. And I mean, we have some people that are training with historical source material, and I've done that too. I like trying to connect to history as well, and just to broaden perspective, right? Like I say, it's not just for me, the video games. That's just part of me having fun. It's deeper than that too. There's a lot more layers in the practice of dream participation for somebody who's gone down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And there's the other side of the rabbit hole, but we're not going to get into that one on this because we don't have time. I should get wrapping up. Maybe some other time. Maybe another time we'll take the face of the start of the rabbit hole and put on the face of what's at the end of the rabbit hole. What else is there besides dreaming? Dreaming is just one part of us. There's other parts of us too that's very interesting that we can get into. But
that'll be a discussion. There's so much, and even when you get into the gaming world, creating a gaming world, there's so much.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing that what we are. I mean, we're traveling through. Most people get very centered on Earth. Earth is like this one little ball planet in a massive, astronomical, old and ancient universe that has far-reaching complications that even NASA with Hubble goes, wait, point the where we think it's the darkest spot where the universe hasn't expanded to, and all of a sudden they see galactic walls of stars, and like, wait a second, you mean there's more? We're limited by our instruments, and we put those limits on this universe and put it into a box that's finite. But I think in the bigger picture, there's probably a lot more to it than that. But that's just, again,
I like how the inner world is infinite for sure. You can there are no limits there at all. None.
Well, you look at fractals, right? Fractals are one way of looking at, ever watch the Power of 10 videos where they did a great job with that, where they go out into space by a power of 10, and then they zoom back down and they go into a person's hand and they go into the micro world.
Yeah, their perspective.
Yeah, and you see it's all very much like a fractal. So you look at information, and fractal information very well represents itself in our reality. When you look at it by the power of 10, it's very noticeable. And I like fractals. We dream in fractals. Hypnagogic fractals, phosphine fractals are very interesting. When you probably notice that if you try to stay conscious during sleep, you might see geometrical patterns emerge, fractal clouds that can kind of emerge.
I see the Fibonacci sequence and
it's very amazing. And those little fractals actually are bootstrapping into dreams, and they will shape out and bootstrap into a higher fidelity graphic, that the dream becomes. So I like that part of
your dreams. Like, can you dream in like 16-bit or something?
yeah, I've done a lot of great stuff with texturing dreams. I get into dream topology in myself, and so I've dreamt in cartoon back in the day, like the classic Bugs Bunny.
I have dreamt in cartoon.
And of course, 8-bit graphics have surfaced in my dreams, and I played a lot of 8-bit graphic games, and they translate differently. It's kind of weird. I wouldn't say exactly like 8-bit graphics, but I've had then when computer graphics got better, of course, instead of having flat, that influence from cartoons, the classical cartoons, I started taking on. I noticed, I started having more CGI style dreams as a result of those influences, and I liked it. But I mean, when I was a kid, I even had, what was it, back in one of the Sinbad movies where they're fighting skeletons climbing up the stairs.
Yes.
Yeah, that scene was so captivating me as a kid. And I dreamt that too. I had that in replay and loved it, fighting those skeletons back from the Sinbad days. Even claymation.
Oh,
stuff
totally.
invoked some pretty cool dream replay in my life. So,
Do
but
you remember viewfinders?
yes, I do. Absolutely. Yeah.
The way those things look, they were kind of holographic, three-dimensional sort of. I
Yeah.
see dreams like that sometimes. It's very interesting. Or before,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and the thing too is like our dreams can also be two-dimensional. I've gotten into where it hasn't taken volume, so I've had like what I call just looking at a picture style dreams, and then they take on volume and they become three-dimensional and interactive that way, and stuff like that. But that's just how information is processing in our brain. So I've taken dreams where I've been in a dream and I strip it right down back to like a hypnagogic state, almost back to the construct that we talk about, and then rebuild it up again. Just like Matrix stuff. It's kind of cool. Or shift the dream content in real time. You go, okay, well, I'm in this dream environment, but I'm going to now recall these memories and thoughts, and the dream just starts to morph. This beautiful morphing takes place, and you start seeing elements. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, it is the holodeck, man. It's the holodeck of your mind. It's great. And so too many times to count, and some of my students now are doing that. One student was having a dream that was having nightmarish elements, but now that they have some training, they stopped in the dream and changed it to something positive. And that's nice. the kind of utility you want, because it is memory and replay. It's your focus and your intent. So when you start knowing how to now think of something else in there and conjure that forward, well, it's going to bootstrap the memory replay process, and you're directing it. So you'll see what I mean by that when you start having success with it. It's fun. It's fascinating to watch your mind shape your dream content. You shape your dream content. At runtime, you can do it intentionally. Oh, it's great. I don't know why more people don't do it.
Dude, everybody should be doing that. I mean,
well, it's so
where
weird.
Can people find your course and you?
Oh,
I'll put show notes, of course, but
dreamingforgamers.com is my website that you can go to for dream training. That's all it is. It's just a gym for your mind.
You said you're a did you say brain coach or dream coach earlier too?
Well, I would say that I'm a dream artist. I like to look at it that way. And,
cool.
So I like to help people become artistic dreamers, and use dreams for creativity,
awesome.
Inevitability of self-exploration that comes with the package. But I like the arts because I'm an artist myself, and I really am passionate about people who are creative. I like, there's such a rich world full of people that produce amazing music, amazing stories and novels and literature, and I appreciate it all, from classical music to rock and roll. I don't just narrow my perspective to one little thing in this wonderful opportunity for experience here. You don't want to be too limited. You have to have a broad perspective. And when it comes to the arts and entertainment, my perspective is very large. I think the only things that I don't like a lot, that I don't like slasher flicks. I can handle fantasy horror like zombies and werewolves when it's not real. You don't get into that draw. But I don't like things where it gets really dark, where you see human suffering.
I feel the same way. That's why I don't like sad movies either. Same thing. It's just like, why? I don't want to go to that experience.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like, when it comes to, I see enough tragedy just watching the news.
Exactly. Or even walking through your daily life.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I stayed away from a lot of places, just because it ends up turning into like we all know the word, but I won't say it here. But yeah, it turns a little bit ugly, and that's just people, though. So you just learn to just do what you want to do in the world and try to stay away. I use what I call avoidance. I don't know how all it's going to work in 2020 when they start changing.
Start with changing your dream world, right?
Knocking on your door saying, "Where's your pass? I'll pass. Where's your COVID ID?"
Oh man, tell me, I don't.
Oh,
exactly.
They have time to go to COVID camp. China and the re-education camps. It's scary what they're doing right now, but unfortunately that has nothing to do with dreaming, so it's a totally different topic, but it has everything to do with humanity and history taking place right now.
It is, and I feel passionately about some of those things too. It's like,
well, we can always talk about that, move away from dreaming, get into what's kind of driving the evil in our world today, because that's what it is. It's not love, it's a lack of love that's painting that picture here. But
I think by creating your dream world is a good way to begin self-love. And
yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, none of us here has the power as an individual to change the world. It's not our responsibility, but as a community and a group, it's a powerful thing when we come together and work towards the common good. I always thought that was what it was about, but apparently not everyone thinks that way. But yeah, I'm all about the common good. What's in it for your children and your parents. And I know how important those people are to me, so I know how important those people are to other people.
Exactly.
Not a shocker there, but unfortunately, there's some people that would like to see the whole world destroyed. Strange.
That's right. Oh, and don't wear masks while trying dreaming, right? There's
Yeah,
no.
exactly. I have a no mask and no social distancing policy in my dream state. So if I catch you dream characters wearing those things, be prepared to be scolded. Told
If
not
there's
to.
ever those markers on the floor with a
Yeah,
6 foot
exactly, right? Yeah.
dream, oh man.
Yeah, I'm filtering that stuff out just so it doesn't come into my dream replay because I work so hard to build such an amazing
Me
place to
too.
just go and have space and not be influenced by the Norman Bates side of this world. I like to stay away from that. I'm still Norman Rockwell all the way as an artist. I like the dream of people having a good life. And that's a tough thing in the world when other people want to take that good life away from them. So,
I like that. On my when I was a child growing up, above my bed was a Norman Rockwell painting of a kid who was on a stool with a bag. He was running away from home, and a cop sitting there talking to him.
yeah,
So I'm gonna think about that as my dreamland now. Like,
yeah, well, that's the thing too. It's like it's just the thing with the shadow self, so to speak, or our anti-self, or the negative inner critic. We talk about that at Dreaming for Gamers. We get into that in the Nightmare course to understand. It comes with us all, and the thing is, we can listen to the part of it that does good, and then we can listen to the part of us that wants to do bad, and both are going to have benefit and consequence. I try to listen to the part of me that's like. Yeah, it'll do some good at least. Don't try to, contribute to the bad. There's enough of that going around. But there's a lot of good in this world. I mean, there's a lot of really good people. So I see it in its big dichotomy, and I know that there's a lot of people that just work hard and take care of their kids. But then there's opposition. It's the human experience, man. It's the way it's supposed to be, I guess. It's been that way since the Greeks, except now we have technology that just makes it even more scary because now we got nukes. We didn't have that back then. It was just swords, but it's still bad. History
we got worse
shows
than that now, I think.
you got people going off the rail wanting to kill everything that living thing that breathes. So you have such a history of violence on this planet that's hopefully one day, when love starts to paint the canvas of our world, not hate. The lack of love I see is what I kind of describe where we're at right now is a big lack of love.
Yeah, again, yeah, exactly. Start with that self-love and start with the dreaming and
Yeah.
focus on that. Create to practice in creating the world you want to see, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a tough one because it's not individual at that point because it's collective, right? But we work as a group, and we're not all working together. A lot of contradictory views, and certain groups that want control and power, and sometimes they get it, and sometimes they lose it, and that's history, right? So,
right, yeah.
I'm not into that part of our humanity. How about the part of us that just care? You just want people to go and be nice. How hard is it?
Exactly, and it comes from that empathy you were talking about earlier that's cultivated through your practice. It's like when you have that, you just see things differently.
Absolutely right. And the thing is, it's tragic when you lose someone you love, and we all know the tragedy in life. I mean, we all go through it. So why make it worse for somebody else just because it's
exactly.
It's all right. I know everyone struggles in their own way. It doesn't matter if you're a kid or an adult or a person aging and elderly. There's challenges in every day that we have to wake up because that's what life is. You're surviving each day, and it can be in an instant. Hello, that wonderful I'm here today, gone tomorrow thing happens. You're all traveling at the speed of light, and there's a sudden stop at the end. So there's no putting brakes on it. But there is actually, if you cut into my practice, you can buffer some of that time in dreaming if you don't have it. Slow it down a bit, get 6 hours or 8 hours. It's 6 or 8 hours of dream buffering before you wake up again. At least then it doesn't feel like you're just going boom, 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 all the way through your life. It's you can take a break.
So actually, there's a 5-second film. Have you ever seen 5-second films online?
No, I don't think I have.
I recommend you look at it. It might be 5SF for 5-second films, but there's just one where it's just, again, it's 5 seconds, and it's just this guy going through his day. He just wakes up screaming because the alarm clock, and then he just goes through his day. He's screaming all day long, like, and then at the end of the day, he just kind of goes to bed, and it's like he just wakes up again screaming the next day. There's no sleep memory at all. He's just like, the whole day.
Yeah, the thing too is it's just like, like I said, I'm not a preacher when it comes to dreaming, so I don't tell people what to do. I don't tell people what to believe. I don't like that. I've had enough of that in my life. I know how awful it can be if you're especially gifted and intelligent and developing your own art. It's not fun when someone tries to grab your crayons from you and smack you upside the head with it for being creative. But right. I always like to encourage, it's just whatever we can do to help each other and be a benefit, So if you want to use your dreams to have development, why not? I mean, they're your dreams. And I just encourage participation. Like, you know, you always hear people telling you to go out and work out, participation. You never hear go out and dream. So a lot of people are saying that. A lot of people are saying, why not become a participant in your own dream experience? Because they're an extension of yourself, and find out who you are as a dreamer. Don't lose that part, because you'll go in blinders your whole life and never know what that means. And then you're dead. Missed opportunity, you know. But it's only if you see a gift. You know, you can't tell a person that they have a gift if they don't want to use it. And that's a big challenge to tell somebody, you can always close your eyes at night and have the most amazing experiences that you'll never have here. But who am I to force that on somebody? You know, heaven forbid I tell you to go and have an adventure tonight.
Right. I'm all about the adventure exploration.
Yeah, it's fun. But anyways, it's just different people. I mean, a lot of people I just call anti-dreamers. You know, the dream killing unfuns, I call them. I'm like, oh, you're one of those. And they're like, you're one of those. And I'm like, yeah.
One of those mean people. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. God, I've had people just go absolutely ballistic when I talk about dreaming around them. It's like you just poked the trigger point where now they're on screaming about Puff the Magic Dragon, and I like dragons actually. I think Puff the Magic Dragon is kind of a cool character from my childhood. Actually, I had dreams with Puff the Magic Dragon in them. I go back to my childhood memories, man. I'm doing so many cool things when I tapped into that. I mean, I noticed it with things like, one of my nightmares was from the Bionic Man. You know,
I remember Bionic Man, sure.
So there's an episode where he was, there was a real campy, stupid looking tank. It was this triangular robot tank. It was cheesy as hell, but it had that chasing me in my dream as a kid, and that was a nightmare for me. And then the other one was where he's going through the circular tunnel, right? So this tunnel, spinning around, and he's in there, and he's all like, whoa, right? Oh, I'm a really young kid, and I had that, and it would trip me out, you know, as a kid, having that replay in my dreams, and I didn't understand it back then. So I did notice I was having replay, because I mean, also things like Mighty Mouse. Man, I had some cool dreams with Mighty Mouse in it. You know, Sesame Street, and I can't remember. There was another kind of kids show that was like 1, 2, 3 something, and they had some pretty trippy little design
Contact.
in it.
3, 2, 1 Contact.
Yeah, I think so. 3, 2, 1 Contact. Yeah, and so I had some dreams with that in it for sure. Like, yeah, I do. You know, even though it's hard for me now at 48 to remember those childhood dreams, that they're so late, and I can give myself some more time. It was funny because I was trying to remember how far back I went, and I knew my Star Wars dreams at 8 were the big turning point, but they weren't the exclusive turning point. And I was like, man, I know I've been doing it more than that. Let's dig back and start remembering. And so the Bionic Man ones were interesting because they were nightmares. I guess I should not have been watching that when I was like 2 or 3.
Oh, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, you haven't mentioned Star Trek much, so I know it sounds like you're definitely a Star Wars guy, and I like.
Oh no, I like Star Trek. I definitely am in. If you remember back in the day, we had the Star Trek cartoons with like the Tribbles.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You better believe I had some really great dreams of Star Trek. Mostly, I liked the cartoons better than I liked the TV series as a child. So I had a bit more of a bias towards cartoons being a kid. So the TV series was interesting, but it didn't catch my attention as much as the cartoon series did. And so, you know, a lot of my early Trek dreams were based on, but I had a dream with Tribbles in it for sure. I remember. And
nice.
You know, it was cartoony, and you know, I've had dreams of Spock in it as a dream character and stuff like that. Because I like Spock. He was one of my favorite characters out of the Star Trek thing. I always kind of related to his logical ways. And you know, the thing with you know, I wouldn't say that I'm exclusively. I say Star Wars because that's when I had the first real motivator to keep.
That was the movie too. I mean,
it was a big deal, but of course, you know, I mean, I've watched the early Star Treks. I've watched Deep Space Nine, and of course, you know,
but it was a sensory input.
Yeah, and of course, I talk about the holodeck of the mind, and at least when I write about it, think about Star Trek and the holodeck, right? You have that built in you already. You have Nature's Perfected Virtual Reality Simulator. Learn how to use it. You know, learn how to run some programs and some scripts in the holodeck of yourself. And so I like the holodeck because it's again that concept. I mean, Gene Roddenberry, I like all these people. They've contributed huge to our culture, like, you know, George Lucas, and so I don't, you know, but the reason why it's just right now because I mean, you know, I wouldn't say that I like Star Trek more than I like Star Wars because it's like saying you like, you know, white wine versus red wine when they both offer something different, right? You know, they're both wines. You know, one's more, you know.
Agreed. So I've come up with a question on the show. It's now going to be a consistent thing, which is your favorite Star Trek, and it's very polarizing for people sometimes. And I like your answer. I'm an original series guy, but I was definitely into the animated series too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think how many people even know there was an animated Star Trek series.
It wasn't good now that you look back on it, but it was.
Oh, as a kid, it was awesome. You know, sorry, I didn't have that bias. as we get old, we get critical, right? We go
Oh,
from being like back when you're a child and everything was amazing to now,
right.
it's like you start off and you see a rose garden and all these roses are beautiful. Now you get older, you're like, maybe I just like yellow roses. And then you start picking on the roses and I don't like all these other roses. I like that yellow rose. And then you're looking at the yellow rose to find the best rose. And now these roses aren't as nice as this rose, back. That's just a human thing. And it's a part of our ego and our egotistical intellect. Sometimes you gotta let that go and just go back to being an artist and loving everything. And, but there's no doubt, there's bad movies. There's movies that I watched that I cringe on, like, not to rip on it, I loved Highlander. The first movie was amazing.
But not the second.
The second hurt.
Yes, it hurt. I walked out of that.
It was like, okay, we didn't need the second movie, but that's with me. Like, I don't like reboots. I don't think it's necessary, but I know they want to make money, and that's fine. That's their choice. But I've been avoiding a lot of rebooted content just because it's crap. It's not good for me, anyways. Exactly. I can go back and watch. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the term retcon?
Retcon? Well, of course, I've heard it, but I'm brain farting on retcon. Is that?
Oh, go ahead.
Go fill me in on it because I'm tired now. My mind's blanking out.
Yeah, I'm about ready to wrap it up too. But essentially, it's like what they've done to Star Wars, where they go back and they have that original story, but then they kind of tweak it and they mess with it.
Yeah.
And if there's something that doesn't fit in the timeline along the canon that they've created over all this time, they'll just kind of make it fit somehow. And they change the memories that you have of the original.
Yeah, that's not good. I'm not into that.
I don't either.
The reason I'm not into that is because I really think history is such a valuable teacher. And I look at nostalgia. I'm a nostalgic guy, and I'm sorry. A lot of people aren't. And they go, "Hey, how dare you be nostalgic?" I'm not. I want you to retcon everything because it's got to modernize. That's fine. They can have that, and if that's what they like, that's great. But it's like same thing with music, right? You grow fond of so many different types of genres of music that are out there, and then suddenly you hear people that now sample from other artists to get their hooks, to get their sales, right? And the newer generation thinks that's the original source, and they don't realize that this is something that somebody else has worked very hard on. Because you look at modern music, for some people it's very simple. You don't have a lot of composition in some music out there that's really hitting. They just go for the jingles back in the old jingle commercials. So there's not a lot of depth in a lot of some music that's out there, especially when it's just derivative of all these other artists' work. And I don't appreciate that because I kind of can think it as intellectual property theft at that point. But as long as you're sharing the wealth, but still it doesn't introduce that new thing, I like the fact that people can sit down and come up with a brand new idea that isn't derivative, but offers something of such value. And that's that human creative spark, and these days, because it's now mass consumption, right? There's so much ease at creating things that we forget how hard it was in the early days for people that really sweated and put that time in for it. But that's why I guess I'm nostalgic, right?
I agree. I feel I'm the old man now. It's like the music today just does not have soul. It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't connect like but the thing too is I can listen to, there's certain like pop songs. Like, I'm not going to lie. I think, like I hear stuff from, like, say, for example, Ariana Grande. Sure, it's pop, but she's got an amazing voice. Her vocal range is incredible. So she's a very talented singer, and some of her songs are okay, but it's just now she's wrapped up in the current pop style of singing. But wow, it's sort of like Mariah Carey. There's another person, Whitney Houston. Another person with amazing voices. And I appreciate that, but a lot of stuff now is auto-tuned and corrected, and they're all part of that, right? And
I like playing with music, but
it's like, but I'm into authenticity, right? And as an artist, when you see, I grew up with kids that were artistic, and I love art class, my favorite class at school, and watching people draw even the most, what we consider to be childish art was still cool. Like, we had fun drawing things that were so silly. Like,
totally.
My friend and I had a whole, like cartoon series things that we were doing on, McDonald's chicken nuggets back in school, and just doing funny stories about them trying to save themselves from being dipped.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Just stupid stuff like that. But
you love it. You just feel like it was the best ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's like, but I don't like to be too critical of people that are being creative because they have a passion for
Agreed.
it. There's nothing worse, I think, than coming up and being that critic to somebody that's passionate about it, and you're not hurting somebody when you're expressing yourself. And I like to encourage it, but doesn't mean I'm going to like everything, but that's because there are some things that aren't very good. Like Highlander 2. No, don't.
But I actually had a discussion. There's one person in the chat at the moment, Keats from Pragmagic, and we had a chat the other day, and we brought up Highlander as well. And he was defending 2 a little bit, and that's cool. I can understand. But we were also talking about the series. Did you ever see the TV series?
No, I phased it out after 2.
That's
Fool me once.
How many movies did they make?
I think they made 3, Highlander 3, because they had. Boy, it's been a long time. I've rewatched Highlander 1. That's the one that I'll go back and watch again. But
I know the one is the best.
You know,
I
3
they
brought back Sean Connery, I think. Isn't that the one where he came back? Like they managed to bring Sean Connery back in for number 3. Number 2 was the one where the guy was from an alien planet that came back, and that reset the whole.
Yeah.
You know, and then of course, you know, they didn't really consider physics, so we could just go to a subway and crank it up to warp speed.
Right.
So everybody was like holding onto the bars, and even as a kid, you know, subways can't go that fast. And then it just stops suddenly, and no damage. It's just boom, done. Traveling like 500 miles an hour. It doesn't like crash into, you know, it's cheesy. I mean, there was some stuff there that just kind of insulted your intelligence, even as a kid, right?
I mean, you know, the first movie is a little campy and stuff or whatever, and it has its moments of whatever, but it's still great. It is. You know,
it's a good movie. Great. Yeah, I mean, if you're into stories and things like that, and that's what I like about, you know, I don't read as many novels now, unfortunately, as I did when I was younger because of my career. I started reading programming books, and then you start getting into video game time, but up until it started getting all really media driven for our lives like that, I was so big into reading and RPGs. I mean, I read, like, if I had a series of RPG books, I read everything. I was really good at.
I read a lot of RPG books myself.
Yeah, I know, I loved it, right? And all that kind of fed my fuel for artistic dreaming and turning my subconscious mind into the dungeon master, so I could be the player character, you know, and go on adventures that I just couldn't do here in a way that was better than virtual reality. It still is. So, you know, it's just what you do with the tool, right? You know, everyone's different, and there's a lot of really amazing dreamers out there. I'm careful too, because in the dream community, there's like there's so many different type of people that have contributed, and you'll notice that it's just like bodybuilding. So you have your athlete X of dreaming, and then you'll have your, you know, let's just all do it through stimulation with chemicals, and people saying, well, try mugwort and try this and try that and try this and try that and try this and try that and try this. And so you have a lot of good information and bad information that can either spin your wheels or take you in the wrong direction, or there's stuff that's very practical. True. And it's just the same thing. Dreaming has been studied scientifically. There's a lot more, I think, solid science with fMRI research of late than there's ever been. I mean, Freud, you know, he even said that one day they'll figure all this out, how the dreams work, because he didn't have like the kind of neuroscience that we have, but we can get right into the fact that, you know, how microtubules work. I mean, now that it's amazing when you get into how information processing in the brain actually develops, and it goes all the way down to the cell, right into the microtubules, right into the alpha beta tubulin. Like, it's insane how nature has perfected computation in living systems long before we made the computer. And we always take credit for, we made the computer, but nature beat us to it, made it the very first camera, you know, the very first microphone, you know, and we're animated in it. You know, nature's done some pretty incredible things. Technology now is just a bit more, I'd say, hard and abrupt. It didn't evolve to coexist with nature, unfortunately. So we see a little bit more of the consequences of short-term gain, you know, in the larger picture of the earth. But maybe we can snap that back.
With bodybuilding too, I agree, man. Just go natural. And I always was stuck with Arnold Schwarzenegger's classic manual of bodybuilding. It has fundamental strength exercise.
Yeah, exactly. And you want the same thing for dreaming. Get to the basics, get to what's fundamental, what's foundational, and train properly, and you're going to get results. But it's a tougher thing because it's cognitive, so we have a lot of quirks in our psychology that can kind of, you know, we start worrying about other things, we get distracted, we get anxieties, and we forget, you know, because when you're dealing with focus states, and all dreaming is just attention focusing, really, at the end of the day. You're focusing your attention on information that's emerging as the dream experience. And so it's attention focusing. Most of the thing is just done by now allowing it to emerge and participating in the experience until you wake up. And just you know, but of course, for fear and things like that, people that may have a lot of nightmares, you know, you want to kind of work on active dream programming. A lot of people get into dreaming this way because they want to get rid of nightmares. And we see sort of people that can work through it, but it's like self-help. It only goes as far as self-help can go. And then, you know, there's people that have more clinical challenges, and there's always that option of going and doing that direction. But I don't take it as clinical dreaming, although I'd love to. But unfortunately, there's no PhD in dreaming that I know of. When I started back in 1990, it was very difficult to break into this direction at the university that I was trying to get into. Is not at all well accepted. And,
I bet, yeah.
So I quit and got 3 jobs and, did the starving artist thing. And
but then you've done all that and you've done all this work, and now people can come to you for it, and that's exactly what they should be doing.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that they have options, right? You want to have some perspectives that are there. That's not, everyone says that my stuff's different, but like I said, I don't exclude things like, people go to dreams and they want to say about all the, mystical and magical parts of it. I don't discourage that from people who want to explore that. We all go into exploring stuff like that. It's whatever you want to do with your own dreams. So I don't want to elicit beliefs is what I'm saying with it. And I don't want to discourage people with beliefs against their own dream participation. It's not about my dreams. They don't get that. It's like, yeah, don't go because I'm talking about dreaming. It doesn't really mean it's about me. What I'm trying to say is, look, dreams are amazing and you have them. And if you develop them, you might enjoy them as well. There you go. Nice. Yeah, don't worry about what I'm dreaming. Don't worry about what I'm dreaming. I'm good at that. That's one thing I'm really good at.
Exactly.
I'm managing that just fine, So I'm good there. I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
dude, Ian, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, Yogi. I'm glad we bumped into each other. So we can always do another coffee side chat and talk about other things too. You never know. I'm accessible and jump on my live and we do some training for some video games. But like I said, the dreams it's just like exercise. I link it to because of atrophy. It's definitely trained and atrophic. So you'll like it because it's the real deal. It's exactly how your mind works. They're developing or going into atrophy. So.
Oh yeah, brain is very important to me right now. Yeah. So
yeah.
Awesome.
I don't want to throw it away either. And despite the uncertainty we're facing, I will not stop this practice. No, not now, not now. In my 40 years, honestly, this year has been the year that this now is paying gold. This is the year that it's like, God, I'm so glad I learned this skill.
Yes.
Good night, everybody. Good night. I'm gonna go off to some pleasant adventures, and I'll wake up and deal with the challenges of 2020. And it is challenging for us all. I don't like it. I have nothing positive to say about it. It's absolutely, I detest it. I think it's in a spectrum of reminiscent of World War II for me. It gives me all the vibes of tyranny and
Well, there again, that's where you go play Castle Wolfenstein.
Yeah, exactly. The dystopia 2020 is rising, unfortunately. And any crimes against humanity, I don't support because it's a crime against us. It's a crime against our parents, our kids, all of us. So I don't support crimes against humanity. So there you go. Never. All right. Take care. It was such an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll go down some rabbit holes sometime. And again, thanks for your time tonight, man.
Yeah, my glasses went crooked, but whatever. I just don't care.
What's that? I'm sorry.
My glasses look crooked, but I'm like, oh well, they're the cheap dollar. They're cheap dollar store. That's how thrifty I am.
My camera, no.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not into, I'm not into vanity and image and stuff like that. I don't care.
Obviously, I'm not either.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me, and especially at 48. Maybe when I was younger and I wanted to find that, soulmate and have that romantic life, but unfortunately, this is Earth.
I just turned 50. I feel that.
Yeah, so and now this is the nice thing about our 50s, because all those things that we thought were so important in our 20s, you find out, no, it really wasn't important.
Fitness and nutrition.
Yeah, exactly. That stuff's really important, and taking care of yourself, you realize it's important. When you're younger, you have time to burn. You're like, I don't need to take care of myself, but consequences stack as we age. We all know that. So
for sure,
take
care of the brain.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to need that when, like I always say, nothing worse than getting into the retirement home when you're stuck looking out a window and wish you could leave. Now you can close your eyes and still go somewhere nice, and that's why I think it's an important practice for some people, and they understand what we're trying to say with dream participation. It's like freedom that you just don't realize you've kind of tossed away for what here. This doesn't last forever. It's wonderful, don't get me wrong. Reality is amazing, but it's also got a bad history too. There's good and bad here. This is a duality in its finest form. So, it doesn't hurt to, and we all like our entertainment, man. I pay good money to watch a movie, and I pay good money to play a video game. I don't have to do that when I go to sleep at night. I can do it better. So
more free. You don't have to put a quarter in again every time.
Yeah, exactly. At the arcade of your mind, are you kidding me? I spent a lot of dollars at arcades, and I remember paper route money went Actually, Pac-Man like crazy, Defender back in the console days. What was it? Dragon Slayer was another one.
Tron.
Yeah, Tron was great. Yeah, Bobble, But yeah, Dragon Slayer, when that came out, I don't know, because it was cartoon, right? And it was the first video game that had didn't have the 8-bit graphics, and it was suddenly now animated, and I was like, this is wow. So I threw quarters at that thing.
Those were like $1 to play, I think, or something.
Yeah, and what was it? Dirk and Daphne. It was such a long time ago. That
Dirk and Daphne, yeah.
And then Space Ace was good too. Dexter and.
Dude, we could have a show about retro gaming.
Yeah, I know. I still love it. I'm nostalgic. I went back and played.
I know a lot about the 80s pop culture and music, especially.
Like Zork. Like Zork. And then I went back and played Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wizardry and Zork. Did you say Zork?
Yeah, Zork.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, old. Awesome. I got lucked out and got to play Pong on my neighbors. They had the old Pong paddle thing on their TV, and I thought that was miraculous until the Atari came out, and then all of a sudden my dad got an Atari.
I had the Pong on the TV. That was my first one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, what was it? Pitfall and Atari. I don't know if you ever played the old Pitfall game, but
yeah, I had the Pitfall. I got the patch from Activision. I had a few patches from winning their. They had
nice.
For you get a certain high score, and you can send a photo in, and they.
That's awesome. Yeah, I sent something into. I remember you
Jack, Oh, sorry.
What's that? Oh well, it's the same thing as kids. Comic books too. Subscribe to the Red Dragon Society.
Right. Exactly.
I never did get my manual though. I don't know what happened when I sent that out.
Oh man,
didn't come back.
I definitely had the patches. They definitely sent those. I was just going to say, interesting trivia. Did you know that Jack Black was the kid in the commercials for Pitfall?
No, I didn't know that. Wow.
I just learned that the other day.
Yeah, well, there's so much information too. If I had time, I spend a lot of time writing programs, so I miss out on my pop culture. But I could definitely spend more time digging into it, especially now. I would like to spend more time going back into retro movies again. Spending more time.
Know what I found about doing that, and especially music, the lyrics and the themes of movies and stuff are so foretelling of what we're seeing today. So that's just fascinating.
Warning us. But I warned myself. I woke up in this world one day and said, "Look, pal, you live in a world where man seeks to control man via any means necessary. Be wise."
Right.
I never closed my eyes to history, and when I was a kid in high school, I studied it. I paid attention to what happened in the world because it was terrifying, and you're like, I don't want to see that happen. Here now, right. So it's like history repeats itself, but how do we fix that when other people don't understand that they're going along with something evil?
I know. It's the awareness that people will take control if they can. They will.
Yeah, and it's a tough one because, like I say, there's people that all throughout history abuse humanity, and we call it crimes against humanity in my camp, and then I don't support it. I never will. I've always been that person that supports beauty and love and history without changing it, nostalgia and just the goodness in everybody. We're all amazing. Right? I don't hold any judges. I'm very forgiving. I don't grudge or fault anyone for, no one asked really to be here. We lucked out and somehow the dice rolled in our favor. And here we are having conversations and being intelligent. And that's a gift. A lot of rocks out there in the universe, a lot of barren rocks. Look at Mars. May have one time had life, doesn't now.
I guess we could just call you a dreamer, Ian, but that'd be a compliment for you.
Yeah, of course, right. But I am very good at that. But I'll let you go, Yogi, because we could chat it forever. It's always such a great, like I said, nothing better than a good conversation. One of my favorite things to have with people.
Yeah, you too, man. Don't forget to get your coffee next time.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that, but I had 3 minutes to get ready for the things. So
thanks for doing that in such a hurry. I really appreciate it.
No, it was perfect. I have time in my evenings, to do stuff like this. If it's not this, I'm doing live streams right now, just, pimping the Dreaming for Gamers stuff, even though
you're doing that a lot.
Yeah. And the reason for that is it's just, I think it'll just draw some people into, maybe because for me, realizing now how valuable it was with 2020 lockdown made me really think, I did one YouTube video once, and that was the only thing I wanted to do on YouTube. I didn't want to chase social media fame or any of that kind of crap. It's not me, but
right, me neither.
Then I thought, geez, I've got this great skill set that it's different. It really is different than what a lot of people are out there promoting. And I'll take it to my grave, which is fine because it served me well for 40 years. But I had a surgery not too long ago. So I've had like 3 brushes in with death. And you realize that everything you accumulate here, it may not, and then with everyone saying negatively about it around you, you're like it's like you kind of think, people are really that uninterested. But then I thought, hell, screw it. I'm going to throw it out there and give it a fresh perspective the way I did it, and see if that helps other people, because I see a lot of
That's inspiring.
Faulty things in the practices that are out there. There's good stuff though, like I say, like Dr. Stefan LaBerge, the stuff I thought is, everything out there seems so derivative from his work and ripped off, and like people talk like, I always credit LaBerge for, at least Power Trip Controlling My Dreams. Unfortunately, I didn't get to his stuff until far down the road when he put out World of Lucid Dreaming, I think in 1996, and I didn't even get a hold of that until like 2000. But wow. I had moved on my own direction, so majority of my stuff is just training myself in the dark, but getting results. But I recognize, like there's a lot. I mean, I could name drop so many people that are in research and stuff like that. We don't have time for that, but they know. I mean, like, this dream science has been around and developing for a long time, and I think the sad part is we're just getting to the point where it's getting good, and I don't know how much time humanity has left with the things that are coming down the pipe. It kind of scares me where our future.
Go get on this course right now.
Yeah, you might not have a very much time left. You just don't know where these changes are taking us. But I don't want to be too apocalyptic with my pessimism. But if you're not paying attention, that's you're not going to see what's coming down the pipe. That's my fault. It's
gotta pay attention. Absolutely.
Yeah, dominoes have a neat way of falling. That's all I can say in this world. So,
well, Ian, keep your eyes open, man. Stay good out there. Don't wear a mask.
Yogi. Yeah, well, we do wear a mask. I take this one off every time I go to sleep at night, so it's all right. It sucks having to now wear two masks. I struggled with wearing just one mask.
I know, right? You don't have. You can now. You can do that now. They've allowed that. You can wear two.
Yeah, there you go. Right. All right.
You can wear a mask and a shield if you want to.
I think I've lost my stream though with you. I look frozen in a. But anyways, we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, it is kind of lagging for some reason. But hey, dude, thanks again. I'll see you and talk to you soon. Take care.
Sounds great. Take care.
And everybody out there, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. That was fun. That was Ian Wilson with Dreaming for Gamers. And just a fascinating practice. Keats in the chat mentioned that he's talked about this practice in different ways. And yeah, definitely. I've experienced this practice in different ways. Even this, aside from the specific thing about creating a dream world, how it plays into other practices, visualization and meditation and magic and even martial arts and athletics and all sorts of things. So anyway, it's a fun topic, and I hope that you enjoyed being here. And thank you so much. I'll be live on Friday night with Emily Moyer. I'll give you more information about that. Hope to see you then. Till then, be sure and look at the show notes below for how to reach Ian. And of course, you know where to find me. So we'll see you next time. Cheers.